and gentlemen, welcome to Kingdom of Kodiak. I'm Kodiak. With me today on episode 60 is Sir Bai Hu. How are you doing?
Good.
Yeah,
We are live. Facebook says so. I can see it.
what it was, I saw you pop up. I'm like, did I scare him with it's the intro gets everyone.
No, no. I think at some point though we do have to talk to Dusty about his last minute questions.
Yeah, the 11th hour, Sir Smiley. It's a little close. I got most of them. We'll see how it goes. All right. So, Bai Hu, thanks for coming on. Well, let's not hesitate. Let's get to the bare necessities. Sorry, Sin. Still would like to know, how long have you been playing the game?
Let's see. So, my kids brought me out to the field. Believe it. Well, okay. So we saw Amtgard at the local Celtic festival.
Okay.
I believe that was June 2013 or May 2013.
Okay.
And so they, of course, wanted to dive right in, and it took me a little while to fucking wake up in the head and be like, I've got two teenagers who want to play with me. I should be out there with them. So we finally did over that summer get them more active. I didn't really start playing until I think 2014. It really took me a while to get my head around it. It's that typical thing of, nerds being like, well, but I'm not as nerdy as that guy, but I'm not as nerdy as that guy.
Right.
And it took me a while. I'm a little hesitant with big shifts like that and new things sometimes. And so, yeah.
Well, it's going to be interesting because we have a lot of mirrored actions. Short time in the game, jump into the monarchy seat, kind of do our own thing, grow great hair. Yep. Look at that. I mean,
oh, okay. Now, if we want to talk hair, and it's not coming off till I get to do a big competition for jiu-jitsu. So
there we go. All right. Next question, of course, is where does the Bai Hu persona come from?
So I had a tattoo on my chest of the kanji for tiger, and when I was kind of casting about in that was actually part of what took me so long to really dive in. Was like it took me a while. So there was somebody already at the park named Fu, and one of the ways of pronouncing, it depends on whether you pronounce it in Cantonese or Mandarin. Fu and Hu is how it's written, and I'm butchering the pronunciation, but I already had that tattoo, and so I was pretty sure that I wanted to go with something around that, because tiger is also it's a part of me that I always lose when I'm in long-term relationships, and I didn't want to lose it in my relationship with Sarah. And so it was like, okay, well, I want to mess with this, and came across the notion of the white tiger. I was like, okay, now how do I deal with the fact that this is also kind of appropriatey and troublesome to my conscience? So tried to deal with that, and ended up with a character who, he's born in northern Italy, and then as a child ends up growing up in a monastery because somebody from the household who survives a massacre steals the baby away and just takes him as far away as he can get, that kind of a thing. And so he ends up as a wandering monk, and eventually comes home to northern Italy and deals with the family stuff. And so that there's a big story. I actually used that story. I wrote the story in letters to this mentor, and I used it for for quals. When I'd run for office, I'd write another chapter of the story.
Again, another mirrored image. I turn in
Did you do that?
I do a journal of Kodiak every time.
Oh shit!
Yeah. Just it's the easiest qual, guys. Just tell your persona as it was for the last 6 months. It's bang, qual, did it.
And it was so good for me to have to work this stuff out to flesh out the character some, and to not just have it be a bunch of tropes, especially because in the back of my head, I grew up on Kung Fu, the old TV show. So it was like, I got to make sure that this is not just a trope. I want it to be interesting to me. So yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Brilliant work, sir.
I always take great honor in seeing the parallels that I have with you as we keep moving on in our Amtgard careers. Yeah, no, it's fantastic.
All
I
right,
adore it.
one thing I don't suggest.
Yeah, we'll get
Don't.
to it. We'll get to
Yeah.
it. We'll get to it.
There are some things there.
Yeah. I promise. So the next question, of course, is what award or achievement are you most proud of receiving?
Oh man. Um so I looked these over and had like expectations. It's hard for okay. So there's a multifaceted thing here.
Uh-huh.
Number one, it's hard for me to feel proud. I
Okay.
I typically see the worst of myself, so hard. Um things I am proud of. The Dragon Rider, and both the initiative and the like, when I was stepping down and having somebody award that to me, that meant a huge amount to me. Um, that was pretty special. Um, I think Paragon Monk is probably
Mhm.
also really high on that list. That's kind of the base of the persona. Um, yeah, I think that's where yeah, like Grand Duke. I mean, I don't know, man. How do you pick favorites out of that? Grand Duke was amazing.
Yeah.
It was also like when I stepped down, I was in a fucking haze, so like that one has its own special feeling. The Lord title was totally unexpected and surprised the hell out of me.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so Knighting has all these other implications. Probably, another top one would be squiring. When I was
Hmm.
first squired, there were a lot of firsts for both for my knight, Ben, and I'm totally blanking on Amtgard names now.
Sir Randall,
Yeah,
you're doing great, bud.
COVID has
Yep.
not
Hmm.
done good
Hmm.
things for my Amtgard brain. So Sir Randall and I both had a bunch of firsts in that relationship, and just trying to figure out how to work together. And it's challenged me to think about how I'm doing my uh, uh, the group that I'm forming around belted relationships. So it's pretty cool. Yeah,
All sorts of them. That's the answer.
yeah.
All of them.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. th- I think part of what I'm proud of with a lot of those is the people who went to you know, the folks that made the gifts.
Hmm.
Like, it's one of those things where I look at it and I just hope to be worthy of it.
Sure.
Um, that's
That's a
kind
good
of the
mindset to have because now you have to live up to it now, right? Like you.
That's what it feels like, because I
Yeah.
I always feel like those things are awarded before I in my head I've gotten there.
Yeah. We're gonna
Um,
talk about imposter syndrome later, so.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, I saw that.
yeah. Don't worry. I've got most of this covered.
It's brilliant.
All right. Bai Hu, what's your favorite battle game? Maybe the type of battle game or the best one you've ever played in?
So one of my favorites was at Keep. I don't remember what year. I think I've only been two or three times, so it was one of those.
Hmm.
But they have this huge castle that they set up, and
Hmm. Hmm.
it's so cool to have walls where like you can hide from a guy in a tower by just getting close to the wall.
Hmm.
It becomes very difficult to shoot right down at somebody right there. So
Right.
there's a lot of stuff like that like it just opens up new things, and it's a huge number of people on the field, and and the noise. Like, we aren't using metal and all that stuff,
Right.
but the noise on the field is so huge. Um, so I think that's a lot of fun. Um, at home park type things,
Hmm.
my favorite battle games are the ones with the most interesting NPC monsters and RP. Like, that's the stuff. Give me a puzzle that we have to do under pressure.
Hmm.
You know, uh, yeah, something where I got to figure out how to RP this, while also, of course, we're fighting off somebody else. Like that, those are fun.
Yeah,
So I don't know.
KOK viewers would be aware that this person here is the dragon from Don't Wake Daddy in Wyvern's Roost.
Oh my gosh.
One of the battle games I bring up almost weekly.
That was so fun.
It was. It was a good
That
time.
was super fun. Oh my gosh. See, I mean, stuff like that. Like, I guess I've been in it long enough that there's all these little moments that aren't as like fresh and on the tip of my tongue anymore, and that's a weird place to be.
Sure.
Because I think of myself as the new guy. That's
Yeah. No, I hear you.
yeah,
Again,
you know this.
Yeah, same thing, right? Yeah. I'm just the new guy. You're sitting on the circle of monarchs. You're the monarch. You can't do that anymore. Oh, okay. Well, here we go then. So you've already mentioned having a Paragon monk. Would you say that's your favorite class to play overall?
Yeah, I mean, easy answer, yes.
Mhm.
The only class I think I haven't necessarily enjoyed yet is Barbarian.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like all the rest of them, I've found something fun about the class
Mhm.
while leveling it. Barbarian, I don't get. So that's one that I'm gonna work on.
Okay.
You know.
All right. And of course, to go with that question, Deverick would like to know what's your favorite weapon loadout?
I mean, favorite is two short swords. Give me two short
Yes.
swords, especially as a monk. Like, are you kidding me? Like, it's gross. Oh, two short swords and one throwy tucked in the back of my belt.
There you go. There you go.
That fucking wizard that's always over there just tossing at him and then charge.
I love it. All right,
You will not
those
heat my weapons.
those were the bare necessities. Sorry, Sin. Let's get to the three questions the KOK viewers have asked since episode 1 with some updates. The
All right.
first one, of course, is how do you feel about Sir Glenolf receiving a toaster and or soda maker? Caveat, Sir Alucard picked up the toaster last week. So he wants to know, how much should I ransom the toaster for?
So that right there, the answer there is very specifically one duck. I just because forcing Glenolf to actually lay hands on a duck will be the price of admissions.
Okay.
Because he regularly acknowledges that the duck is the scariest, most terrifying animal in the universe. So
All right.
that's the ransom.
All right. Madam Esmelda would also like to know, what would the ransom be for the soda maker if we ever got a soda maker for Glenolf?
I mean, I don't know. I can't drink sugary soda anymore, so I've
Oof.
disconnected from my
Ah,
feelings about soda makers.
it's understandable. It's understandable. We all hit that. We all hit that point, right? Where it's like, okay, I've got to cut down on the pop. What is pop now? It's just
Well, we went keto like a year and a half ago, and
yeah.
so like I think I had one Mountain Dew on my birthday last year. Like
Nice.
that's what I've had in the last year and a half.
Was at least a code red?
No.
Oh well.
I mean, I actually enjoy almost all the Mountain Dew flavors,
Mm-hmm.
but if I'm gonna have like one Mountain Dew a year, it's gonna be the original. It's gonna be from
Classic.
a can.
All right. All right. I'm not arguing. I'm not going to argue there.
I mean, I'm
That's
not
a
gonna argue with Code Red. Like when they came out with that, I was like,
yeah.
now I have all of the flavors I need.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's
Can.
all the combinations ever needed. Regular and co-red. Thank you. Okay,
Yes.
so Morgan would like to know, what's your thoughts on bears?
So so when somebody asks that, my first thought is, people. I have a lot of friends in the gay community,
Oh,
and
no.
the first question is whether I'm a cub or a bear.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where this question goes for me, is this whole thing of blah 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 blah, and I don't have enough facial hair right now anyway, so whatever. So yeah, I love bears in certain settings, I guess, is the thing I would say.
All right. So in the creature slash fictional character sense,
All right.
who's your favorite bear?
Oh, Baloo.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm sorry.
I won't take that personally. Uh, point for Baloo, and since Morgan and Stillhet both aren't Baloo, you can have -3 points.
That's fair.
Yeah,
That's
that's
fair.
fair. I won't take a negative because I'm hosting the show still. So we also have to ask: do you believe that there are bears on the moon?
No,
Okay.
there are not.
All right. All right. Stillhet would like to caveat the best bear question with why is the best bear not Kodiak or Stillhet, but the Munchkin Nimbus?
I mean, first off, Munchkins always have extra points because they're Munchkins.
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm,
mean,
mm-hmm.
yeah, how do you really are we going to compete with a Munchkin? Um, as for like the rest of it, like, look, why would I let my two people I love and admire get
Oh.
pitted against each other?
Well, it's been a war. It's been a war for Stillhet and I for 60 episodes now. So Morgan kind of got into because it's in a bear community over here, but it is what it is. Thank you
I'm
for
sorry to
smiling.
disappoint y'all.
Yeah. Okay. Last of the three carryover questions. What are your thoughts on Dragonspine getting a mobile pool and or jacuzzi? Dragonspine, it's a joke. We're not actually getting a mobile pool and or jacuzzi.
First off, we need yes. Second off, the jacuzzi needs to be in the back of the event bus that I want to build as
Okay.
my RV. Okay. Um, the pool, we're going to have to go bigger with that. That's going to actually require an 18 wheeler with a custom trailer. Um, and I will volunteer to pound nails to get that built.
All right. Fantastic. So, would you allow bears in this pool and or jacuzzi?
I'm going to assume that we're going to have to.
Yeah. Yep. 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 I was gonna give you a little bit of length there to work with the other community that just in case you wanted to bring them in. Yeah, that's fine.
Now that's going to be the best part about bears in the pool.
Yeah.
But why on earth are you and Stilet in competition over this one?
It's we're besties. We've got to have some kind of competition, and
All right.
you know, whatever. And then, of course, the last part. We've had a couple of really good suggestions, mostly having to do with making a calendar or making a provocative calendar. But how would you
Oh,
fund the pool and or jacuzzi?
oh wow. I think since AmpGuard is going full on like a nonprofit organization, we've
Mhm.
got a board, and we've got an XCOM and all right. Let's sell futures in the pool.
Futures. Okay.
Yes.
Are we
So we'll
time-sharing the
fund
pool?
it. See, this is what I'm saying, right?
Okay. All right. All right. I'm
Right?
listening.
We can
Okay.
fund it that way. We can get the layout done that way.
Hmm.
And then like if they pay enough, we'll bring it to their events. So if Keep wanted to have us like roll up in the pool, I mean, just 10 grand. We can we'll make the trip.
Okay. All right. So we're going to timeshare the idea of the pool and then build the pool and then start making people pay for it.
Well, of course.
All right. There you go. I'm
I
here
mean,
for it.
you just described the stock market. Why not?
Hey, I'm a bit of an intellectual. All right. Those are the three questions KOK viewers have asked since episode 1. Let's actually get to the questions that were asked to you. And it starts off with a heartwarming one. Dame Annabelle Lee and Gideon Stormcaller had questions in the same vein. When did you become so wise, and how are you so strong?
uh I love these people.
Right.
Um uh um I'm fortunate enough to have had a lot of wise people in my life. I I'm not ready to accept that I'm a wise one, but I I definitely accept that I've been around. I've been really, really fortunate and privileged to have a lot of of, of wise people share their lives with me. Um, that's really, really fucking cool. I love that. Strong. Now, strong, that is working out daily. This morning it was squats and deadlifts. So there you go. If we're going to take this literally, that's it.
Okay. I thinking he was going for more of like a mental toughness, but sure,
Yeah.
it was legs today. That's the
It
answer.
was leg day.
Yeah.
I honestly on the mental, like on the mental end of that, it that's again really hard for me to accept. Like I'm coming back from a 2 year, what's it amounted to an almost 2 year break from the game. I was just beginning to kind of put my foot back in before COVID shut everything down last year. Um, and in that time, I've spent out of the like 20 months that I've really not been involved in the daily stuff of Amp Guard. Probably 17 of those were in therapy, doing work around anxiety and depression. So PTSD and a bunch of stuff like that. So it really like, so I guess if there's strength there, it's in courage work. It's in not being uh, not letting those fears of being weak or being becoming parts of myself that are not who I want to be. Um, I think that's where that goes for me is if there's strength there, it's in persistence. It's in I keep getting back up.
Yeah. That's so we got to keep doing, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so I didn't want to get this to be too somber right off the back, so I'm gonna make you be proud right now. Okay? I'm gonna
Okay.
make you be proud. What's the weirdest flex that you can give us right now?
All right. So I saw this one pop up on the feed and I was like, oh, I don't even know what to do with that. Um, uh, weirdest flex. Okay, there it is. This is a real life weird flex. I had a client who is becoming a coach. Um, we, we, he's, he's returning from a hiatus in coaching and he's becoming a coach himself. And he he was trying to figure out how much to pay me to be his coach. And I said, well, pay me what you want people to pay you. And he said yes. And it ended up being more than what I normally charge. So I think that's a weird flex in a way because I don't know what
There
to,
you
I
go.
was like,
Yeah.
shit, apparently I'm not charging enough. Like, okay, all right. Well, what the hell is that? I don't know. I'm not unpacking it. It's
Right.
just over there.
That's fair.
I think that's a weird flex.
Yeah, there you go. That is what I would think would be a weird flex. All right. So Sir Smiley would like to know where's the best place to work out outdoors?
Anywhere.
Okay.
I mean, they outdoors, I work out at the park sometimes. I take all my gear over there.
Mhm.
I love working out outdoors because I'm a shirtless nut job. Um, like
We'll
that's
get to that
it's,
too.
it's not just my persona. It's just really I just fucking hate clothes. Um, I had to put on a tunic tonight. Like that was the whole thing. Um, so yeah, I work out at my park. I when we're traveling, I go running. Like
Mhm.
it literally it's literally wherever. I enjoy working out in my backyard because I've got a a mannequin back there that I can, practice not hitting in the head. um, like, yeah, I don't think there's a bad place to work out outside unless, I mean, the middle of the street. Don't be an idiot, but
Well,
you
okay.
know,
Anywhere but the middle of the street is fair.
yeah.
Okay. Kenji would like to know how awesome does the garb have to be for you to choose it to go over shirtless?
Pretty awesome. And I think that's part of it too for me is it's not just that it's good looking like I'm wearing one by Melody Song Taylor
Mhm.
And the back of this one is really the gorgeous part. It's a reimagining of the dragon spine heraldry, in more of an kind of Asian dragon design, and needleworked all together. It's a stunning work of art. So I
Mhm.
mean, so that's one thing. That's one part of it. The second part of it is, it matters to me who made it, um, or who chose it for me, or something like that. Garb to me is a personal connection thing. Um, uh, yeah. So
Okay.
so it's not just how cool it is. It's also who made it, why, how did I end up with it, that whole thing. I still have the sword that Kenjin made me
Mhm.
3 years ago. He should know, I finally did blow the tip, like in 2019,
Yeah.
and and I have to repair the tip now. But that's like it. Yeah. Anyway, there you go. Um, yeah. Gifts are really meaningful, I think, and the using of them is part of the meaning for me.
Well, good, because that leads us into the next question from Sir
Oh,
Smiley.
okay.
What is your favorite amp guard equipment you own?
Oh, um, oh God, dude. Like immediately, I'm just running store. So I'm in my office, and one of my knighting gifts lives in my office. Like, so it's hard for me to like pick a favorite because it's kind of all throughout.
Mhm.
Um, there's the knife that was given to me at my knighting with
Mhm.
this amazing story. Um, the okay, pro, uh, MacGyver got me a katana
Mhm.
for Christmas,
Mhm.
and it's one of those beautiful things to me of just like, number one, it's so character, it's so true to my character. Number
Mhm.
two, it's actually a functional katana, like it's a real. And then when we went to Japan, we made little knives with one of the guys who is now a master, but apprenticed to the man that built my sword.
Oh wow,
So
awesome.
it's just this like, what the hell just happened? So I mean, that's got to, yeah, yeah, we're gonna be here all day if we're gonna do this.
Well, I mean, you got a lot of questions, so we're probably going to be here all day, anyways.
Okay, all right. I mean, right down to the chains,
Mhm.
from my knighting. Uh, I love the fact that like this chain is one that I can wear on the battlefield, because a lot of the challenges with chains is when you get hit right here, is they can dig in and really actually hurt you.
Right.
This one's flat, and so yeah. So I mean, there's a million things like that. I think that's a real testament to the generosity of our community.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
it's a really, yeah.
You, eventually, you're going to answer a question with just an answer, and not be so humble and so.
Okay, when
We're
we
going
get to Dusty's like last second spewing,
to.
we'll get some of those. Okay.
Okay. All right. Uh, let's see. Anatole would like to know, what are you looking forward to when you return to in-person AmpGuard?
First off, hugs.
Hugs. Yep.
Like I I honestly don't know how active I'm going to be. I don't know what my place is in the community post COVID as I come back and try to figure out what I want to do. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Um, but I know that there's a lot of really folks that I love dearly in the organization, and it has brought a lot of folks into my life that are some of the best people I know. Um, and I've missed that. Um,
Agreed.
I'm a physical person, so being a shut-in for the last year has not been healthy for me.
Yeah. No, I hear you. No, I can't. I absolutely cannot wait to give you a hug. I cannot wait.
See, this exactly. That's the thing. Like for me, just I'm gonna run around at events and hug people, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. Just I'm gonna put a sign on. I would like to hug whoever's in front of me, and if you please just say no, but I'm going to approach you with arms open. Um, it's my
And we can breathe sideways. That's
yeah right yeah exactly yeah. All right, going back to your garb a little bit. but not really. Kato would like to know. Uh, he's seen you rock amazing tiger armor before. Do you have tips for leathersmiths?
Um, so I didn't make that. I saw that question and I'm so glad that we get to talk about this stuff because it's always better than the answer I would have typed. Um, what I did there was I found somebody's work that I loved and then I commissioned that.
Mhm.
And it's really the helmet that I think embodied it the best from uh, uh, that particular artisan. My advice to artisans is always find one or two people that you genuinely like, and that's an important bit, who are better than, if you're beginning at this,
Mhm.
who are better than you are, right? If you're already an accomplished artisan, you don't have to worry about whether they're better than you. You just have to worry about whether you like them, so that you guys can drive each other. You and Stillhead, what you're doing with the bear thing is you're driving each other in leadership and having fun with it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's what we have to do is artisans too, is we have to find somebody who and when we're newer, I think it's really important to have a badass. Like I always want to find somebody who can kick my ass at every aspect of the thing
Mhm.
and learn and grow. And there's eventually that moment when you look and they're not in front of you anymore, they're beside you, and it's really cool. um and then you push each other, right? And that's part of the coolness. So I mean, I guess the only thing I say there is genuinely like the person that you choose,
Mhm.
one or two people. That's the thing I would say.
Okay.
I think everything's better when we like the people we're working with.
Absolutely. You are getting a shout out in the chat
Oh,
for one of the hugs that is most memorable to Deverick and I, and that would be GOTC, where you jumped out of the car and met us in the middle of the road to have a hug because it was our first event and you were excited and it was like a hoppy, like, yeah. It was, yeah.
that it was so neat to see you guys diving all in.
Mhm.
And that to me is precious. So yeah.
No, again, you for new players to find a monarch that made it very easy for us to just know that we were welcomed, and that
Mm,
was how you did it. Like when you did your Dragon Rider and you showed up on a Wednesday. I remember this when you came to DLC on a Wednesday. I got it all organized, got everyone to go,
that's
and
right.
I was just super stoked because I wanted this person who had given us all of this extra energy to keep pushing for Amcard was going to come to my park.
Yeah.
So that's you. That's a pride thing for you. That's you are energy. You are energy.
Mm, thank you.
Of course. Kenji would like to know how awesome is it to have Amp be an activity with your whole family?
That's incredible. Like I'm an atheist now,
Hmm.
but that to me is something sacred. Um, that it's that and that we're all kind of involved in different ways. Like we all fight, we all craft, and we all uh, do leadership positions. Like we all do all of the things, but we have different things that we really love.
Hmm.
Like just go right down the rabbit hole on. And that I think is a testament to the idea that we fell in love with about Amtgard, which is that there's this is a huge tent as far as LARPs go.
Hmm.
I've seen a lot of other LARPs that just, they've got one or two aspects of these things, but none of them do all of them in the same game.
Right.
And that's, I think, what we've got going for us. Um, yeah. So yeah, the fact that the whole family can find something that, every single one of us can do that. Yeah, I honestly I can't repeat enough times what it's like to be a parent of a teenager and to have that kid be like, I want you to come play with me. Those are
Hmm.
words you never hear as the parent of a teenager. Like, so to me, that alone is huge.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Um, do, the question I'm going to modify the question a little bit just to make sure still had question still asked. But
All right.
um, do you guys are you pushing each other? not in a physical sense, but motivation. Uh,
Hmm.
are you do have paths that do cross over at points. Again, all of you do craft, all of you do fight. Are
Yep.
you trying to push, or as a parent, is it something where it's like, no, ebb and flow, whatever's going on is cool?
I do my best to let it be ebb and flow.
Hmm.
Um, I don't always succeed at that.
Sure, sure.
um, and as a family, we do our best to really be really clear about consent with each other. Um, and so there are, there are times when, Sarah's like, I have a fighting goal, and I'm always like, oh, great, because I need a sparring partner.
Hmm.
So there are times I tend to be the more like, we're having fighter practice. We agreed, we made
Hmm.
an agreement, and I want us to fulfill that agreement. So there are times when I'm kind of a driver in that way. Um, but what precedes that is an agreement to do that. Um, I don't honestly do that as much with the kids. Because bluntly, one of the things I love about this game is there's mentorship systems in there.
Hmm.
They have adults in their lives who can do that, who can play that role.
Sure.
I don't have to do that. I can just be their proud papa.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, um, yeah, I can follow my own stuff, and they can learn from me by the passion that I bring to the stuff that I love doing in the organization.
Sure.
And that's a different type of relationship. That's something other people in the organization can't necessarily do. You
Yeah.
know, so yeah, there's a bit about that that's kind of my leadership style. There's always the question of what can I do, or what can Stillhead do as monarch that nobody else in the organization can do.
Hmm.
Those are the things that are top priority. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
so for me as a parent, I kind of try to take that approach. Nobody else can live the example for them that's been present for 22 years of like uh, of Eli's life.
Hmm.
Nobody else can do that for him. I can. So how do I best do that? Well, I live that example by going out there and following my passions and following what I love and teaching him what it's like to love doing stuff and fail at it. That's some of the most important thing. And sometimes, well,
Well, we'll get to it.
we'll get there.
Without getting there, the final part of Silhet's question: uh,
Hmm.
did your knighthood affect the in-game relationship with any of your family?
I mean, yes, um, and no, but probably yes. Um, and I'm not sure I can like express it.
Sure.
Um, but there's little comments that are different and things like that. So that's about when Sarah started just constantly repeating the hashtag never a crown night. That was what she kept saying. She's like, no more crowns. I can't get any more crowns. I'm not doing this shit. Um, which is kind of fun because it like we do our best to not compete with each other. And
Hmm.
there's been times, calls and stuff where we both submitted things and, yeah, I'm gonna probably crank it up a little bit there because I know she's a badass, and I don't want to be totally embarrassed.
Right.
She's probably gonna beat me, but I don't want it to be like by points, just little points.
Yeah. I feel the same way with fighting her, because
Oh God,
she I have to bring every speck of mental energy I have to fight MacGyver, no matter what.
she's so defensive.
Yeah.
Like she just has really solid defense.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm. Uh,
yeah.
well, Eli would like to know, uh, how should roleplay be made more important in Amtgard? Also, he'd like to say he loves you.
I love this kid.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, and also I love you, Eli. You're an amazing human. Um, yeah, it's a gift to be your father.
Oh.
Um, how should RP be made So first off, I think RP is the biggest growth area in the game.
Mhm.
Um, there are too many games that do it better than us, and it's a community and a cultural thing that we have to change. And I say that because the people who step on our fields for the first time, 9 times out of 10 are resonating with RP. So we have to get better at facility. And I'm talking to me too. Like, full transparency here, this is not a strength of my game. Um, I don't really care. Like when I was looking at starting an annual event for Dragonspine, it was going to be RP rooted, and we were going to cap the number of people that could even come the first couple of years because I wanted to focus on the RP experience because I think that is the future of the organization. Um, and I think that not just because of what it brings in, like how many times on our Facebook pages has a new player posted on there before they show up at the park and the questions are really RP heavy.
Mhm.
Like it happens constantly. Um, that tells us that has to tell us something, and we have to listen to that because when we don't provide an RP experience for them at the park, they it's very difficult for them to exercise that muscle.
Mhm.
And that's the entry muscle for a huge number of our folks. It's not why I would have joined, just to be clear, right? But I
Mhm.
don't think that people like me are going to be turned away by it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like that's the thing that I think we have to get through our heads. It's just because those of us who didn't join because we loved RP, um, we're not going to be turned away. Like it's not like we get shut out. It just means that all of this huge growth area is being ignored right now, and it doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two, we have a toxic white male problem in our game, and I think the best antidote for that is RP energy that
Mhm.
forces us to be in relationship differently, forces us to discuss consent about how we do RP. So one of Dusty's questions later on is about the war
Yeah.
that we participated in. And the first thought into my head was I didn't care about the outcome of it. I knew I could RP against either one of those monarchs. And that was the strength of the entire exchange. There was a level of consent and understanding between us so that we could say things online
Mhm.
and know that we had a real relationship to back it up so that if one of us stepped out of line I didn't worry about stepping on Dusty's toes.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's an important element of RP is you have to have a safe container. um and so I guess that's my thing. Like I think not only is this good for the growth of the game, I think this is good for the health of the game, for the health of the people in the game, because it puts an emphasis on creating safe container for us to be able to try different things on and explore different. I mean, that's honestly what RP is.
Mhm.
It, it's we're exploring different parts of ourselves. How fucking awesome is that? And it transforms the culture of the game. I think in really good and important ways. Um,
It
so
sound
there,
it sounds like you're giving a shout out to the Kingdom Champions challenges where you're getting to build your persona and then by chance giving you an opportunity to role play with that persona when we start doing in-person events. Thank you, Sir Bai Hu.
hell yeah. I just honestly, I can't say enough about how vital RP is for the future of the organization. Um, yeah,
We're
yeah,
gonna get in the Go
yeah,
ahead.
go.
Oh no, I was gonna
No,
say we're gonna get a little bit more into that a little bit later because there's the question, of course, about the fifth belt. But let's get there
yep,
in order. Kenjin has a question that is essentially boils down to this: what advice do you give a seasoned player versus a new player versus a longtime vet? Does it differ, and is the approach different?
uh, yes, and there are variations. The number one thing I'm always going to talk to somebody about is what's their passion. What's lighting them up, and it doesn't have to be the same thing all the time. Like some of us run through. MacGyver's a good example of somebody who she'll go down a rabbit hole, and when she's done with that rabbit hole, she's on to the next fucking rabbit hole. Like, and that might last 6 months, it might last a year, but that's how she operates. I tend to be the like long grind person where I'm like, I ain't giving this up. Like it was really hard for me to come to grips with the fact that as I made jujitsu more of a priority, I had to look at my goal of earning the oldest warlord title and say I may have to lay this one down,
Mm,
right? I don't lay things down lightly or easily. So so it really so I think it so that's the first question is what's your passion right now and how are you following it? And I ask that whether it's relationships that people are, if they're pursuing a belted relationship, if they're pursuing office, whatever it is, it's all about our passions. We have to be passionate about the people we're working with. We have to be passionate about the people we're playing with. If it's stuff, if stuff's what lights us up, then that's what our passion is. So I think that's the thing that doesn't vary for me. I mean, I'll talk to a veteran about it. I'll talk to a brand new person and help them follow their passions. That's yeah. Um, what does vary is the amount of information that I might use to help somebody follow their passions,
okay.
right? Somebody's first day on the field, they need to know very few basics, but more importantly, as somebody who's going to end up helping to create that container for their first experience at the park, right?
Mhm.
Whether I'm in office or not, as a veteran, it's part of my job, I think, to help create that container for that person. Um, I want to know what they're passionate about. And if it's being a fucking level one wizard and getting their ass whooped, I'm going to be monitoring that because it really like that's a tough path to go.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to do my best to make sure that I find ways to help them light that up and enjoy it, right? Um, and in that case, I probably won't review hit locations with them because they're not going to be hitting anything.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that's it. But like that's all your first day really. It doesn't have to be the nuances of level 6 paladin. Like sorry, it's totally irrelevant, you know?
Right.
You're going to learn the rest of it out there on the field when you try to cast at a monk and one of us leans over and says he's immune. You know, oh, yeah, the gray sash don't we'll talk to you about
Yeah.
heat weapon. That's why we put that on your list. That kind of a thing. That's totally different than a veteran where we're sitting down at an event and we're really wrestling with so what does it mean to choose to pursue mastery in something, um, or how are we going to make our events better for the future of the organization, or a veteran who's lost the spark, you know um, and helping them find that spark, or even just facilitating space where there's no expectation that they need to be, you know, the same person they were 5 years ago or 20 years ago when they started the game.
Right.
Um, there's vastly critical differences, but I do think passion and relationships are the two things that are the same across all of those spectrums.
Okay. All right. Still would like to know, what do you like to see out of a monarch at a local level, at a kingdom level? What's just one thing that you're like, I need to see this out of every one of them?
They need to be capable of standing in the place of responsibility. Period. I don't need to know that they're going to do like I'll vote for somebody even if I disagree with them on, how many points of armor chainmail should be.
Mhm.
Um, I don't need to agree about shit like that. I need to know that that person can stand in the place of responsibility, make a tough call, and move forward with kindness and grace,
Mhm.
but but move forward. Um, that's the one thing I need to know. Um, People break that down as people say, I need to know somebody can be an adult. Somebody said that once. I was like, no, that's accurate. but I call it, yeah, this is, yeah, the part of me that still does leadership consulting. You got to stand in that spot and you got to make a call.
Right?
And and you got to know how to do due diligence. You got to know when you're done doing due diligence, because people like me will research and avoid making the decision because I didn't have all the information yet.
Yeah, right. That's fair.
Imposter syndrome again, by the way.
Yeah, yep. We're getting there. We're close. We're close. Still, I would also like to know, how did you balance difficult situations as a monarch to both be there for your kingdom but maintain your personal health and mundane job?
um, First off, I'm not sure that I did. Um, and I think anyone that is overly confident in that, I have to question, because
Yeah.
like, there I mean, were there were definitely days when I woke up when I got out of bed in the morning and I had not slept all night because I was chewing on an amp guard issue. Um, so yeah, I think the first question, I'm not convinced that I did the best job of some of the things that she pointed out. There are some fundamentals that I think are vital. Number one, boundaries. Know when you're putting down your fucking phone at night. I'm not responding to Facebook messages after X o'clock.
Hmm.
And I just tell my leadership staff that, right? Uh, 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 I started honoring my day off when I was king. I honored my day off in the rest of my life from AmpGuard as well. And I wouldn't pick up Facebook. I wouldn't pick up my phone. Um, and the folks that knew me knew I just wasn't available that day.
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes it worked well, sometimes it didn't, but that was one of the things I did to maintain what sanity I had left at the end of the process.
Yeah.
um, so that's one thing. Another thing is having a group surrounding surrounding you. Um, know who your cloud of just the people who are your biggest fans are. Um, and turn to them often and spend time with them.
Hmm.
So that's one of the other things is follow your passion still, even though you're sitting in that seat of responsibility. Have one or two things that you're not giving up. For me, it was fighting, right? I knew with I knew the folks in my fighting company, for example. um, I could always take a time out from whatever was happening in the park day and just go get a first to 10 with one of them. And
Hmm.
it didn't happen as often as I wanted it to, but they were always down and they knew what it meant to me. They knew it had nothing to do with whether I was going to learn in fighting or not.
Sure.
I think they knew that it was just me needing to be like, this is all that matters right now is this, you
Hmm.
know? Um, so yeah, I think know what your like one or two things are that you're going to hold on to, even though you're sitting in that hot seat all the time. Um, and check in with people a lot. Um, define your circle, know who the people are that will never betray you,
Hmm.
um, and and make sure that you spend time with them, make time for them. Um, yeah. Also, only do one rain at a time.
Boo. Get out. Get away from that. Come
No,
on.
no, one rain at a time. I think this back-to-back business is craziness.
No. No. That's silly. That's a silly talk that you're about to start right there. No. No, you know what?
Yes.
Balder said the same thing.
Yep.
When Balder and I ran against each other, he was like, listen, this is not because I don't want you to be in office. This is because I want to do it, and I don't want you to think that you need to do a year. So just so you're aware. And I'm like, I'm going to do a year. I'm running for a year. I'm going to do it. Uh, I'm going to put those, that's my goal, my expectations. And, you know,
The,
I only twitch a little bit at night.
so here's my thing. I've seen a lot of folks step down at the end of one term
Mhm.
and they've maintained themselves. It is I don't think I've ever seen a monarch who did back-to-back terms and was their whole selves at the end of it. Is that I mean Does that make sense?
Yes, but I mean I agree, but the fatigue of doing anything
Yes,
for a long period of time can do that.
absolutely.
It's so we shouldn't just like if you have the spoons to do it twice and you come out with spoons, you probably did better than the expectation, because people who don't come out of it with spoons, those are the people that need to step away or need to take a
Yeah,
break, and it happens. This is a discussion we could go back and forth on, because I
and we
don't
will.
I don't stop doing stuff. If I start something, I'm stubborn, and I don't listen to people, and I just keep
Another
going.
resonance
Yeah,
point.
right. Yeah. All right. So the last three questions of this section,
Yeah.
last four, well, not necessarily last four. Uh, three questions in a row here are going to be more about taking care of oneself, less to do
Yep.
with Amtgard. Okay. So Sir Smalley would like to know, and it's a personal question from him. He is still in seminar, and does a formal education ever really end?
So short answer, no. And it's one of the things that I enjoyed about seminary, is that it began for me the process of becoming a scholar. Um, I'm looking for a home to do some PhD work now. And I draw a direct line between what I'm doing now, which is not going to be anything to do with theology, but back to my seminary time. Um, it and it's because it's not just about all of the information, it's about the formation of the human being that's doing the work. It's a process, and like any process, it's not we're not just computers. Like, yes, there are skills that we need to have and all these things.
Mhm.
The reasons I don't do better in most tournaments has everything to do with my formative formation of me as a fighter. It has nothing to do with whether I know what shot to throw or what shot to block from somebody, right?
Mhm.
It's my will to impose my plan on my opponent. Like that's the so there's the fighting thing in seminary and scholarship and all that. It's shaping us into people who are curious about the world and about other humans and about their experiences in the world and the experiences of those that have come before us and all of that stuff. And yeah, that doesn't stop. Like once you open the Pandora's box of curiosity, oh no, that ain't stopping, never. So yeah,
Okay. Lightning would like to know the question. It starts with asking for a friend. Those typically end up not being for a friend, but asking for a friend. What's the appropriate level of caring about other people's opinions? How to stop negative feedback, eating one from the inside out, and how to balance wildly different feedback.
the answer to all three of those questions is actually the same.
Okay.
It has to do with how centered we are in ourselves as we hear feedback,
Hmm.
um, as we hear shitty feedback from shitty people. Like the even a broken clock is right twice a day. You know, there's a 2% truth in even the like worst feedback we get from somebody.
Hmm.
Um, and and we have to be able to be centered enough in ourselves to hear that 2% truth and to let go of the ugliness
Hmm.
around it, right? um Again, this is not something that I'm great at all the time, especially when I'm tired. And you know, when we're in office, what are we? We're tired, we're
Hmm.
overwhelmed, you know, all of the things that that kind of break that down. um so so yeah, I think that's the key is do whatever helps uh whatever helps us when we're in those positions, whatever helps us stay centered and to hear things from it's not impersonal, it's that we are we aren't afraid of being crushed by it,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? Like when I'm in a good place, I can read the ugliest Facebook post and I can hear the little bit that's true. I'm trying to think of an example. Like when I say 2% truth, I mean like That guy said 100 words. There were only 2 of them that were true.
Yeah.
Right. There weren't enough people at the event. And he's right about that.
No.
You know, we needed more people to pull off the kind of thing that we were going after or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
All the rest of the stuff that he said, that's his shit. I don't need to shovel it. It's
Right.
not mine.
There it is. Yeah, that's
you
fair.
know,
Dallin would like to know, in your opinion, I'm sorry, on your opinion of how to deal with respectability politics.
yep.
That is the idea of marginalizing folks to have to be marginalized folks to have to be polite enough to meet a certain criteria to be taken seriously.
So first reaction is this is a white supremacy issue. It's a patriarchal issue. It's the fun part is I just learned Sarah was telling me recently, like, so one of the U.S. culture is highly influenced by English culture,
Mhm.
right? Apparently, the Angles, one of the predecessor tribes, used to get raided a lot by Norse tribes, and they would be thrown in pits and tortured. And there was celebration around the expressions of pain. And so the Angles' response was to become really incredibly stoic and to not express feelings. And so this is, when we talk about the 2% truth, we often acknowledge in this country that we don't deal with feelings really well, right?
Yes, sure.
This is the root of that. There's a legitimate root there. This was tribes who were trying to find a way to exist in the face of aggression, right?
Hmm.
Um, but when it ends up becoming writ large, and it ends up becoming this thing that very much becomes associated with uh, white men in wigs and suits and all of the trappings of culture, and now you have to come this way into the space. Well, I gotta be blunt, man. It, if you expect a black woman to approach that way in our country at this time, you're just fucking wrong.
Hmm.
I just can't put it any other way. And that's what I hear so often, and it's thrown at people who are in any number of marginalized positions. And it shows up in our organization of Amtgard. Well, I can't talk to him about that. He gets too angry. Yeah, maybe that's because he's tired of dying the death of 1,000 cuts. And maybe there's a culture shift that we have to make. And if I can't sit there and listen, now, are there times when I have to step away? Absolutely. Yeah. But that's on me. That's not on the person who's coming in angry because they've been hurt because we had a bunch of racists go off on a page,
Hmm.
right? That's not his fault. That's our fault for not holding a safe space.
Yep.
Like that's where I go with that. That's our responsibility. That's on us as those of us with power. Those of it, and as a white dude, that's on me because of my privilege. So I think that's the shortest response I can make to that.
Okay. All right. I'm sure if Dallin reached out, there could be further conversations
Oh
in that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Dallin and I could go off for an hour on this, I'm
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I removed the part where he wanted a Royce rant. I didn't add that into the actual conversation, but there it is. I brought it up anyways.
There it is.
Yeah. All right. So a lot of the first sections typically deal with your perceptions of um your favorites and whatnot in Amcard. Now we're going
Yeah.
to talk a little bit about the kingdom and the game as more of a wide expanse before we get into knighthood. So
Hmm.
Dame Annabelle would like to know, how was it being the first floating monarch of Dragonspite?
On one hand, it was amazing, and I felt guilty because I would show up at parks and they would throw a huge party because they hadn't seen a sitting monarch in years. And I felt guilty because I had put such an emphasis on travel. I've mentioned privilege. Like, a lot of us don't have in the organization don't have the privilege of being able to travel and visit different places
Hmm.
so regularly.
Hmm.
Um, I did. I'm a homemaker. At that point, my kids had grown up quite a bit. Um, it was really the big transition of me moving more toward professional work again. Not professional work outside the home again. So
Hmm.
yeah. So for me, it was a neat intersection of life because I knew that I was taking on something that was way bigger than I could if I was working full time.
Hmm.
And that I could tackle it in that way. I could do that. Um, but I was conscious every time I showed up and there was a party like that and people were talking about how glad they were to see a monarch and they had never met one before and they hadn't seen one in years. And the last time they'd seen it, it was because something really terrible was happening. You know
Sure.
what I mean? Um, I felt guilty because I felt like I was stealing those experiences from future monarchs.
Mm.
I knew that it needed to happen. Um, but my biggest fear has been that you and Elsbeth and Balder and Stillhead won't get that kind of a reception because there's not that longing to finally have those relationships face to face. So, I mean, so I
Sure,
guess there's the question. What
sure,
was it
but
like traveling for you?
well, I've been the king in quarantine.
You didn't get to do any face to face? No, oh my
No,
gosh.
I didn't have a single week where I was the king
Face
outside of
to face.
quarantine. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, so I guess I don't know. That part may just be me and my shit, but it was amazing. Like a lot of it was amazing.
Hmm.
Other parts of it were flat out awful. Um, because I felt oftentimes like I was standing there with one hand on the California border and the other hand on the Texas border and trying to hold
Yeah.
a 1,000 miles of distance and trying to tempt it into relationship. Um, and that's a really stupid way to think about it, but that's what you know what I mean? Because who's
Yep.
going to be able to do that? That's not
Yep.
like you can't do that. That's not a task a human being takes on. But that you asked, that's the gut response.
Yep.
Um, but it was also just amazing, like to see people's responses to like the Dragon Rider initiative, to see people's responses to, yeah, we'll show up on a Tuesday because that's when you're going to be in town, and we want to do this thing. Yeah, like people's generosity around that stuff is just amazing to me. Um, Travel, I think, does such good things when we can and when we can take people with us, um, it does so many good things for the organization. um, yeah.
Yeah. I agree, and I would say that as an outside observer of the Dragon Initiative, I didn't get to do the whole trip with you, but I met you at a couple parks
Yeah.
for that trip. Uh, and now stepping out of the monarch seat, someone was going to have to be the first one, and it makes more sense for it to have been the first floating monarch to be the first one to do it as well. You know, so
Yeah, and like I want to be there the first time Stillhead gets to visit Scorpion's Pass.
right,
You know what I mean? Because I
yeah,
just want to see somebody else get this experience of the first visit of the monarch.
hmm,
I think that's really cool. It's a really special thing. Um, yeah.
yeah, I agree. So that kind of answered the question about the floating crown. Outside of maybe you want to discuss outside of the travel part of it, the floating crown itself. You were instrumental in the beginning phases of that, and it ended. The process ended while I was in office, so we can speak
Yep.
to the beginning and the end of the entire floating crown process.
Yeah.
Uh, how do you feel about it?
Um, I mean, it's floated.
Hmm.
So the first thing I have to acknowledge is we did it.
Hmm.
Um, which as an organization, like I I work professionally with organizational change management and transformation and all that kind of stuff. Um, for our organization, for an organization with a 30-year history to make a complete transition of this type, right, is very rare. Normally, the organization would die rather than make the change.
Mhm.
Um, for those of you in business worlds, it would be like the owner of a business who'd started that business, owned it for 30 years, suddenly deciding to go to open book management and profit sharing.
Yeah.
You know, like it just, what? Like, who does that? Um, so, and that's the thing that I would say is that I haven't tracked every part of it because it was a long, thorough process.
Mhm.
And I needed to step away from it. Um, and I think that's part of what's important about the floating crown thing is it means we have to trust people that we aren't looking over their shoulder all the time on, because we have to trust the person that's in that seat, even if we're not going to agree with them. So that's one aspect. Second aspect is the fact that we did it and only lost one chunk of the organization, one park.
Mhm.
That's fucking miraculous. You want the truth?
Yeah.
I know what I would have told a business who was looking at doing this. I would have told them minimum you will lose 20% of your revenue over at least one of these years.
Mhm.
Like, you better have a back pile because it's going to take it out of you. Um, so so yeah, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
That the organization made it through it with and coming out the other side with groups that want to be in relationship.
Mhm.
That's pretty cool. That's really cool stuff. We may not always like each other because that's going to happen,
Yeah.
but so I guess that's kind of the big picture that I would focus on. Are there bits along the way that I wish we'd done better? Yeah, and
Yeah.
I can point to a bunch on my end, that I wish I'd been able to stay on and more active on the rules change groups, like some of that stuff as we transitioned for consistency. Um, but also, like, in the end, it got done.
Yep.
Who's to say that me being in that seat wouldn't have slowed things down so that it never, like, so whatever, it got done. That's what matters. And I think it got done with integrity.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I think that's probably the, like, yeah.
All right. Well, I avoided this question. I went around all the other questions I could, so that we still have would like to know, how do you feel Kodiak did as the Corn King? As I did not see the field a single time during my reigns. Two of them. I did two of them.
So first off, that that award behind you was well earned. Um, and it was I got to talk with Stillhet about it and ask her some questions about what
Mhm.
she thought of things. And I was amazed how quickly she just poured off a list of things that you had done. And again, I hadn't been the most active, but even as somebody who was not being overly active, there were two or three times when I ended up, on Discord functions to do an event or something because I was invited.
Mhm.
Um, and that, to me, that's really hard to do in a kingdom this huge. Like, so so that's one thing. The second thing is I think you did well because the way you shifted the way, well, I guess, did Balder
Balder started
began
the
that.
shift to
Yeah.
Discord. Yeah.
So those him and you, one of the things you did well was figured out how to be endlessly creative on Discord in meeting the community's needs.
Mhm.
And yeah, if that's sometimes people are playing video games together and not Amped Guard,
Mhm.
it's fine because exercising community is still exercising community. And in my head, we are a home to little nerds that I didn't have when I was a little nerd.
Yep.
And if that's how we got to do it, I don't really, as long as it's safe, I don't care how we do it. So you did a lot of things like that. The second thing is when you began this project, um, you came to me and
Mhm.
talked to me about it.
Mhm.
You didn't have to do that. Let's just acknowledge it. As king, you didn't have to do that. That you could have done whatever the hell you wanted with that. Um, but you chose to, and you chose to, like, ask questions and figure out how to do this.
Mhm.
Um, and I was so yeah. So the way you did that, the fact that you did it, your follow through on it, this is a much better project than what I began back when I was kicking off nightly chats. Just for the record, like I look at this and I'm like, wow, he did way better with this than I did. So all I got to say is, woohoo, good job. Like,
Thanks.
um, so yeah, again, Grand Duke was well deserved. Was it different? Well, yeah, but guess what? Every single person that sat in that fucking throne has had a different experience. So yours didn't include face-to-face park time. So what? Mine didn't include showing up at the same park twice in a row. So what? You know, like that was just the nature of the challenge that was in front of the kingdom at the time, and you met it, and you met it well. You met it with creativity. You did things people didn't expect. Um, well, those are all the hallmarks that we look for. So hell yeah.
Oh, this wasn't supposed to be about me, but you don't take praise and you love giving it out. So here we are. Uh, yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
60 episodes of KOK, not missing a week in a row.
That's
Uh,
what I mean. Like, are
no.
you kidding me? I
Oh,
just like seriously, please hear that. Like, I'm so glad that I stopped doing it because it's so much better now than what I was doing.
oh, come on.
Well,
Well,
and just so no, I'm serious. When I started with one thought. I was addressing the problem that in visiting these parks, some of the folks at these parks had never met a knight.
mhm,
And I sat down with the night circle and I said, how we can't have this. We
mhm,
can't have entire parks that have never met a knight. We got to do something. Here's an idea. Will you guys try this with me? Like that's what it was. It was trying to get the knights of Dragonspine in front of the people of Dragonspine so that they can start conversations and feel
yeah.
comfortable. I want to ask you about this thing that you did, how you did it, why you did it, that's and you've taken it way beyond that. And that's so cool to me. Like,
Well, I would say that what the kingdom was able to do in the last year is directly reflective of what you were capable of doing on your Dragon Rider. Because you
mm,
got out there and met these people, I was able to give out ninth orders of the owl, eight smiths, nine
oh wow.
dragons before I stepped out of office, and was able to prepare Kenjin and Yang and Stillhead and Spooky and the next wave of, and all of those are forged from their appreciation for what you did to get the Dragon Raider off the ground. Now, you can say that it's not connected, but this is the Kevin Bacon game. I can make the connection if you want.
No,
Um,
I see the connections.
and calling you, I was at work by the way when I called you and was like, "Hey, I just want your permission because I am essentially going to step on your toes once a month." And when
Oh
you were
wow.
you were like, "No, by all means, go ahead." Uh, you have given me the okay on things without saying okay before by just being awesome, and then to get the a verbal okay from you and Sir Randall as well, because his Randall chats were also a thing. Were could still be a thing, but
Yeah.
um, to get both you a verbal okays from both of you meant the world. And you get to 60 episodes of something like this, and you're like,
Mm,
this isn't about me. It's never been about me. It's about the sacrifices, even if you think they're small, that you're giving up or
mm.
that you're willing to step aside on to watch, a guy sit in his apartment and ask a bunch of silly questions. Anyways,
About bears. About
about
bears.
bears. We're gonna ask about birds later too, but all right, not
Oh
about
god.
me. Let's keep killing it here. This is the question you referenced early on in the chat. It's
Hmm.
from Sir Smiley. If you could do it all over again in the Golden Plains Emerald Hills War, would you side with me and Emerald Hills, or would you keep it the way it was?
Honestly, I would still support Golden Plains because they were the underdog in that fight.
Mhm.
It, I mean, honestly, between the three monarchs, it was just fun, and I wanted it to be more fun. And it's not fun when you just walk in and you stomp on somebody. And so to me, what made it the most fun was to have more competition between Golden Plains and Emerald Hills. There's a lot of stick in Emerald Hills. Um, there's some there's some a couple of really solid fighters out of Golden Plains too. I'm not knocking their stick, but there's just not as much there. And so to me in my head, I was like, I want to make it a fair fight. So I'm going to go in with what I think is the underdog. The other thing is I knew King Uther at the time because I think he was the king of Golden Plains at the time. I knew him well, but for some reason I felt like I knew Dusty better, like I knew Sir Smiley better. Um, and so I felt like the amount of salty things I could say on Facebook
Yeah.
with Smiley was a little better and would help the event do that, so I think that's yeah, I would still choose the same, but it's not for like any reason other than like I felt like it made it a better event. And it was a lot of fun. That event was a whole lot of fun. So yeah.
Okay. Speaking of events, Kenjin would like to know, what does your perfect AmpGuard event look like?
The second I step out of my car, I'm immersed. I feel badly while I'm setting up my tent or my trailer or whatever my lodging is because I want to get back to that immersion. And there's something that's inherent, like, I get out my toothpaste. They didn't have toothpaste. Whatever. Those things break the immersion for me. Like I want something that grabs me from my guts and pulls me into it. So it's that part of me I'm a theater geek, for Christ's sake. I've been on stage in front of thousands of people, but for some reason, RP scares the crap out of me. Right? Like, but I want something that just pulls me forward so quickly that that part of me doesn't get to talk, that it's just like dive right in. So that's going on. There's space for the timeouts from that because RPing 24/7 is really hard. Um, so there's space for me to just hang out and sit and have a drink with somebody, maybe a beer. I'm okay with dry events. I gotta say, I think moving toward dry events or differently organizing alcohol at events, probably the future that we need to look at. But space to just sit and enjoy relationship, also essential. There better be somebody there at that event who can kick my ass with a stick too. Like that to me, like, because it's always fun when you win one on that guy, yeah, that or that gal. Like it just, yeah. So what is it? It's got all of that. It's got something impressive visually. We have so many good artisans in the larger organization. To not have some art that is just that people have to come keep visiting. I remember a tiger tunic at Keep once. I don't know how many times I went in that tent to look at it. The judges had to keep going, get away, because each time I looked at it, there was something else cool about it. So anyway, yeah, it's got all of that. That to me is a neat event, but it starts with the RP. It starts with the immersion. Like when you set foot on the ground, when you set tires on the grounds, you are pulled into a different world. That's to me a great event. It's what Ren fairs have that a lot of our events don't have.
Yeah, I agree. Just a little caveat I want to add there. Is Sir Sane there with a banjo?
Absolutely.
Yes, he is.
I mean, if you want the title of best event, you better have Sir Sane with banjo.
That man can play a banjo like no one's business.
And there's just something fun about watching him play. Like, here's this sword knight, right? Yep. One of the largest, strongest humans I know, who's just being his happiest, best self. And it's so precious to me. He has one of the biggest hearts of any human. Yeah. Yep. Anyway, don't get me started.
Yep. Banjos and kittens. MacGyver's mentioning in the chat. Banjos and kittens. That's, yeah.
There
All
you
right.
go.
Shroud Star has a question that got asked a few weeks ago, and I love it, so I'm going to keep it, and I'm going to put you on the spot. You didn't get to study for this one.
All right.
If you
Well, first off, where's Shroud Star from?
Emerald Hills.
Emerald Hills. Okay. I was
Yep.
like, I don't know this human yet.
Yep.
Okay. Cool.
I've learned a whole bunch of new people through KOK. I can understand. Uh,
It's a
and
thing.
Shroud Star, if you're listening to this and your house is okay, because they had a hailstorm during KOK, and it blew out almost every window in their house.
Oh God.
Yeah, they had apparently
I
between
saw a
golf ball,
post about this.
yeah, between golf ball size and baseball size hail hit their house. So
Oh.
Shroud Star, if you hear this and can just let us know that things are getting better. I don't want to have to keep reaching out in private message, but I hope you're doing all right. Um,
Yeah.
so her question: if you could create a letter award in AmpGuard that doesn't already exist, what would it be for, and what would you call it?
I don't care what it's called,
Okay.
but it would be for RP.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, in response to the earlier thing, and Glenolf and I were talking about this. Sir Glenolf and I were talking about this the other day. He's like, I don't think we need another ladder award. I think RP is covered under Dragon. It's explicit. It should be there, and we should be
Hmm.
treating it. And I'm like, oh shit. Well, I failed. Like, how many times have I been in the seat where I was giving out awards? I've never given out a ladder award for RP, and it's probably the thing I regret most about my time in the hot seats, both as a Duke and as King. Um, so I love the idea of making Mask a ladder award.
Hmm.
I think limiting recognition of superb RP to once a month, which is the way, even though that's not technically the way our rules are, you can give dragons for RP,
Hmm.
but the way the explicit instruction is around RP only comes up really around masks and facades, and the
Hmm.
fact that they're limited. That right there tells us where we shoved RP, and it was
Yep.
in a little box in a corner.
Hmm.
To me, that's the way I read an organization: is how well do you use this? Well, we don't use it over here, even though we could, and we stick it over there in a corner. So
Hmm.
it would be, well, all right. If we see, that's why I like the mask though, because to me, RP I associate with traditional theater stuff, and
Yep.
it's the two masks, right? That
Uh huh.
that symbol of Shakespeare's theater, right?
Hmm.
Um, uh, so it would be the Order of the Mask, and it would be a ladder award, and it would be for RP. And if it contributes to Knight of the Serpent or uh, uh, Master Serpent, or what, I don't care. I just know that we need something like that.
Yeah.
You know.
So it's interesting as sitting in the monarch seat and looking at the awards that we neglect. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to say neglect, but
Nope.
neglect as
But
far
we
as
do
letter
because there's
awards
so
go.
damn many of them.
Right. The one that I took personal honors in was Owl with Kenjin. Kenjin, I
Yeah.
know you're watching because you watch everyone. Uh, Getting you to 9 and knowing that you're eventually gonna become a Serpent Knight because of that, and be the first Owl Serpent Knight in Dragonspine, like that.
Seriously?
Someone correct me
We
if I'm wrong. Sir Randall, you're also in the chat, so if I'm
do we
wrong,
have we don't have any master owls?
we maybe, but I don't know if we have a Serpent Knight based around it. We have a competition. I'm making a lot of air quotes today on KOK, folks. There's a couple of good players in our kingdom who are in 8 and 9 areas for smiths. When's
Yeah.
the last time we had a smith, master smith that
Oh
became a
geez.
knight? Right? Like these are examples
Yeah.
of what could have been considered neglected, and
Well,
now the
way to go.
mask, is an opportunity. Yeah, I mean, I just like to give Kenjin a bunch of clout because I know it makes him blush, and um, that's what I'm
And
here for.
I love that you're lifting up him in particular, because the experience I had out at Mountains of Elstrom, uh, I remember him so clearly, and
Hmm.
just um, I'm grateful for what you're doing. Again, that was something I feel like I dropped the ball on. Like, I don't feel like I recognized enough of our folks who are neglected and amazing, and our veterans. He was a veteran when I got there,
Yeah.
Like he was already a veteran, and the number of times I would go and look up orcs on folks like him and just go, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, it, so anyway, yeah, be more generous with awards.
Mm-hmm.
Um, high standards, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Also, err on the side of generosity instead of erring on the side of, um, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's my thing.
Yeah, no, and those Monarch teams, when you guys look at those awards and you're trying to figure out the eighth and ninth, and is it of that quality? My best advice I can give you, and I'm sorry, Bayo, I'm kind of taking this away from you.
No,
This is your
no,
chat,
go. You're
but
going.
reach out to people. We
Yes.
reached out to multiple different kingdoms that our players have been putting stuff in for, and asking them, hey, this is what we're thinking. We don't want to step on your toes as a kingdom. You can give me a half thumbs up if you want, or you can go for it. And every award I've given out has been approved, appreciated by other kingdoms for getting that
Yes.
response too. Reach out and talk to the people that are seeing these opportunities for awards. Uh, Darius is so good at being like, "Hey, Glassforge Island has this person. They should be
Yep.
up for this award. Here's the item that we want to give for them. This is why we're giving it for them. This is why we
Yeah.
can't give it to them. Please do it." And it's
Yep.
just like, bam, yeah, let's do this. There's way too much evidence not to.
And the thing I would, if people are afraid of asking that question, if you're already asking that question, it's time to ask the question.
Yep.
That's my advice. If you're wondering, it's time to talk to the kingdom monarch, or talk to another park monarch, talk to
Hmm.
a local duchy monarch, like any of those things. If you're asking it, go ask it. Like don't man, yeah, go
It
ask it.
also,
It's the best part of the job as monarch,
yep,
right? As a
yep.
king, to have somebody come to you and say, I want to give this award. Woohoo! Like, even if
Hmm.
I have to say no, we get to have a great conversation about it, you
Yep.
know?
And if you don't, you ultimately don't want to have a conversation, but you still want to put the award in, award recommendations are
Yes.
anonymous. You can
Yes.
always put those in. And I know that my monarchy team, Stillhead's monarchy team, Boulder's monarchy team, because I was part of all three of them,
Yep.
have a list and they review all of those. So,
Yeah.
you know, uh,
That's another thing y'all did much better than I did, because I did all that myself.
mm,
And I would create spreadsheet lists and stuff for that to try to keep track of it all. And it was inevitably just a horrible, painful process, because
yeah.
I wasn't like, for some of those higher level awards and titles and things, you want to be able to give a scroll. There's
Hmm.
all these other fun trappings that we can do as an organization, in addition to, anyway, blah blah blah. It just, y'all did do the team thing really well, and I've always been impressed with that. That's cool.
Yeah, no, it's a running joke that if we had a conversation, Kodiak has a doc for it. Um,
Way to
anyways,
go.
yeah, well, it's what I do. Still, I would like to know, what is imposter syndrome and why should Kodiak stop diagnosing me with it?
Imposter syndrome is something those of us with less than stellar self-esteem often encounter in the world. Basically, I don't think I'm qualified for something until I'm so overqualified. I'm the guy when I play RTSs who will just farm the entire map before I go crush somebody. And
Yeah,
by the time I walk in there, it's just like I send two infantrymen and they're so leveled up that they just blow the place apart, right?
yeah,
And I've got 85 tanks backing them up. Like, and they aren't even in the field, but the thing's already gone. That's the way I approach life. So by the time I think I'm prepared for something, eight other people are sitting there going, "You're scary at this now." Like, and still head, yes, you're like that. I resonate with you deeply on that. Yeah.
yeah.
Like, that's ah! Okay. So yeah, I guess there's the thing, especially once somebody's broached the subject of whether somebody, if imposter syndrome is in the room, it's time to ask the question, what do you want? And are you willing to take a risk? And are you willing to fail?
Hmm.
Um, yeah. I do this a lot in my work. I coaching, the majority of my clients are women. And I'll tell you, this is a very common experience for women in our country.
Hmm.
To constantly, they talk about the confidence gap between men and women, and it that imposter syndrome thing is so prevalent. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of reasons for it. We also don't have to continue living that way.
Yeah,
So yeah, you're a badass still. It just
she is a badass.
go
Uh,
do it.
it's also amazing to be able to say that she's not good, because then the swarms come and they go, "Oh, you want a list of reasons why you're good?" Because we can reference it. We have all the data, and then she's like, "Oh, well, okay." But yeah, still, you're amazing. You will always be amazing. Okay. One of the questions I like to keep, and I've left on the list for KOK. It's another great question, and it's kind of similar to a question we already asked, but it's different. If you could change one rule in AmpGuard right now, what would it be and why?
Oh. Mm. Oh boy. First thought,
Hmm.
all events are dry events.
Okay.
Um, I don't think that's where I would want to end. I feel like there's actually rules that are in there that I would want to change. Um, I'm curious, for example, to see what the proposed rule change around the synthetic leather, allowing synthetic leather to count for something. Um, I'm curious about what that will do to the game, because when I look at cosplay, there's a lot of cosplay out there that is synthetic materials that is just incredible. Now, some of that won't stand up on our fields. Um,
Hmm.
you know, we still do have full contact, well, almost full contact.
Yeah.
So like you still got to make stuff well, but I think opening up the materials is going to be pretty cool. And again, we are not the SCA. We're not as concerned about keeping things original. We're we're the tea bucket folks, man. We want to just make something cool.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's another area I'd look at. God, one word, I don't know. This one required preparation on my part, and I did not
There's
I did
60
not make it.
60 episodes of
Go.
KOK. It's been on like 10 of. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying.
We could come back to it.
Well
We've got
done.
a bunch of
No,
other
I
questions.
think those are my responses.
Okay.
I'll probably come up with a better one later, but yeah,
All right.
let's go.
Okay. Anatole would like to know, what AmpGuard related goal or project are you excited about to start or pick back up?
Um, I want to make armor for. I want to make the T2 Judgment armor from World of Warcraft. Um, that's a dream project. I either want to make it or I want to commission it. The commissioning price that I was given was well, it was my next car. So I'm
Yep.
like, all right, I guess I will have to learn
You know,
leatherworking. Um uh, but yeah, I think that's a project that is lingering back there. It's honestly one I may not get to until, like, for example, I can't fight.
mhm,
Um
mhm.
uh, I don't know. Because it's going to be a process. But I want to do that. I want to see that, even if it's just an interpretation of it, that says how would this have functioned in a real situation, but keep the flavor there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a cool challenge. So yeah, I have a picture of it. It's the screensaver on, or the wallpaper on my gaming computer, and every time I see it, I'm like, God, I gotta make that. So that right there.
Okay. All right. Okay, we got some more in-depth questions here from Gideon. He's gonna need a minute to chew on, I'm sure.
Yeah.
How can we be best at fighting sexism, gender, and racial inequality within our game while still following our own paths and growing ourselves?
Um. So this question has so many answers. Like the list is so long. First off, um, we don't need to be listening to people like me. on this topic. We need to be talking to female coded people and
Mhm.
saying, what do you need? And then we need to sit down, shut up, and not be fucking defensive about it. We just need to sit there in service of our organization and in service of our humanity and be willing to try some things differently. Um, that's very hard to quantify. What
Mhm.
does that look like? Um, it'll look like, I'll just say this. Oh, actually, you know what? Here it is. Here's the rule change that I would make.
Okay.
I would require that all Kingdom Quals include fighting tournaments that are men's and non-men's. And it's not that people who don't identify as male or as a man. It's not that they are not welcome in the quote unquote male tournament or men's tournament. It's that as male coded people are not welcome in the other one.
Mhm.
That's the distinction. And it begins to have this bias of an organization toward marginalized voices and
Mhm.
says, how do we give marginalized voices in our, how are we deliberate about giving marginalized voices places to grow and express who they are and to be normalized in our culture? Um, so that to me is the root of it. And it's not just around gender, it's around any number of things. It's around somebody saying, your orc face looks a lot like blackface and we need to talk about it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so, like, yeah. So I think so it's a stance shift toward favoring marginalized voices for ourselves. Um, it's there's a rule change there. Like we could solve this whole problem just by having the rules of play say, if you're having a tournament, you must have a non-men's tournament. While
Dragonspine does.
yeah, okay, I'm saying
Yeah.
you said ours of rules of play earlier.
No,
So,
hey, I
and
there's a um,
congratulations, well done.
yeah.
Because I mean, bluntly, that's an example of something I did not move on, that I have regrets that I didn't do.
Oh, it
Um,
was Sir Anatole and Sir Shion and Sir Sane that did it. I just put it out for the public. So.
yeah, but running that as the person in the hot seat, as the person standing in the place of responsibility,
Mhm.
um, you still had to face that. And yeah, way to go. I'm glad you did. And I'm like proud of those guys. Like, here you go. Here's three of the top sword knights in the entire organization, not just
Mhm.
our kingdom, saying, please do this.
Yep.
That's really important. Yeah.
That's it. We have another one from Gideon. How can we work towards fixing a rampant bias and disdain that has grown between members of certain parks, kingdoms, and social groups within the game?
Um, hmm. So this one's tricky, and I don't think there's a formula. If there was a formula, we'd already have fixed it. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
I do think, again, one of the most important things is traveling and playing together. It's one of the most important things we can do. Even in two parks that hate each other, if you get together and play together, um, there's going to be somebody in the organization in both parks who's going to really love somebody else from the other side of the
Hmm.
tracks. And those are the kinds of things that begin to erode the biases that we have toward each other. Um, Relationship is key. And not just the two parks that hate each other. Like, if a third or even fourth party can participate in normalizing things, it
Hmm.
it, it goes much faster. It helps immensely. Um, this is one, by the way, that I'm not sure I start entirely with RP,
Hmm.
because the parks themselves, the leaders, the people who would be facilitating this, have to know their own biases deeply enough to engage in RP in a way that is, again, in a safe
Yeah.
container,
Yeah.
right? Like, you and I can push some pretty hateful stuff at each other online, right?
Sure.
But backstage, we're going to be like, yeah, I'm going to push this, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, because there's an understanding here and there's a sense of trust. And there's also a sense that if you actually said something hurtful, I could tell you,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
Parks uh, that don't have that, people that don't have that, organizations that don't have that, actually can't engage in good RP. So, if you want to do RP as the groundbreaker for that stuff, you have to have other organizations who are going to model good RP and who are going to include people in the back channels that are happening while that's happening. Yes. Do you see that before I wrote that hateful thing, right? We had this discussion backstage about what language we were going to use and how we were going to do this. So this is a completely consensual thing. And our parks trust that because we're used to doing that at our parks.
Hmm.
So I think as I'm talking, I think it starts with how we look within our own organizations. So how do you foster a sense of trust at your own park?
Hmm.
And then how do you foster a sense of trust across that? It has to do with having great reeves at these mixed events,
Now.
because again, that's the safety thing.
Hmm.
That's what helps us trust. Um, yeah, I think there's a lot to it. Yeah, there you
Okay.
go.
Sure.
I don't know.
That
I don't feel like that's an answer, but we're gonna live with it.
Well, no, I mean you gotta have open communication, right? Like
Yep.
if two people can't do the communication, a third party's got to be brought in to have the communication, and you probably shouldn't try to fake being nice or fake being mean to each other if
there's already hurt feelings.
Yeah. You
Yep.
can, you really can't be entering into RP. Somebody else has to do the RP in that situation.
Yeah.
And somebody else probably needs to do the reaving when you're together.
Yeah, for sure. Kato would like to know, why can't we stop bickering about who gets what park and just have a war like we did in the old days?
Because it's not the old days.
Hmm.
I mean, there's the short answer. Uh, can we again? Why were Emerald Hills, Golden Plains, and Dragonspine able to engage in that war? Because none of us had anything at stake.
Yeah.
We just wanted, like, people talk about the wars of the old days. This is what makes it fun, is
Hmm.
when there's nothing at stake and we're gonna enjoy that. The challenge is this is not the old days. We have rules of play that are very different from what they had back then.
Hmm.
We have an actual nonprofit set up around this whole thing. So there are legal implications for a park changing hands between entities within the nonprofit. We don't solve those problems by going to war the way we did in the old days. It's
Yeah.
just it's no longer appropriate. Um, Also, it's absolutely appropriate for us to have more wars. Like every time, every time I see MHOG, Michael Hammer of God, we talk about the potato war that began the Spring War tradition.
Hmm.
It began as going to war. We got to fight over something. Let's go go do this. Um, that's the stuff of fun, man.
Hmm.
Yeah, we're a medieval thing. Like, we need to have some of this.
Sure.
Um, so yeah,
Okay.
doing it to decide territory,
No.
it
No. Nope.
creates
Nope.
warlords, that creates tyrants, and it creates situations where nobody wins.
Yeah.
And I'm not down with that.
Sure. All right. I promise you one more super intense question in this set of questions, and then you're gonna get to you're gonna get to put people on a pedestal right after. I
All
promise.
right, good,
Okay.
good.
Anatole would like to know, what lessons, if any, did you take from your temporary band, and how will they shape and influence your AmpGuard experience moving forward?
Okay, so first off, which band?
I think we're talking about the one that was generated from GOTC in 2019.
So there's two from around that time. One of
Okay.
them is still in place. I'm still
Okay.
banned from the Burning Lands.
Okay.
And it's because of an online post, because GOTC has to change its name. We cannot continue being yelled, having people yell "Good morning, clan" at an organization that people already associate medieval LARPers with white supremacy. We absolutely have to end the name of that event. I'm still banned for saying that in much less kind terms than I said it here.
Hmm.
But after 3 years of having private conversations, I was done having private conversations with
Yeah.
monarchs down there and boards and stuff. It's just got to change. It's evil and it needs to die. So that's one that's still there. What have I learned from that one? That I'm not sure I've learned anything, honestly. I'm not sure there's much to learn there. It's not a position I'm going to give ground on. So we got to change it. The suspension here within Dragonspine, and I told Edelsmith this when he called me to say this is going to happen, was from events on the field at GOTC. And my behavior was totally fucking out of line, totally inappropriate, and was I'm not sure it was unsafe, but it was damn well close. If it wasn't, it was not unsafe. It was not good. What have I learned since then? So, and when he called me about that one, I told him 3 months is too short. I feel like as a knight, we have to be held to something, and also it included misbehavior on the field of play, and we have to take that seriously. Again, what have we been talking about for the last hour and a half is our sense of trust and having a safe container, and I violated that on the field at an event. So we have to take that seriously. I didn't feel like a 3-month suspension was enough. I offered him my belt back, and I offered the Circle of Knights my belt back, because in our kingdom, those are two groups that have to consent to somebody being knighted. Neither one felt like that was appropriate, so I'm still a knight. What have I learned about all of that? I learned a lot about myself. That was when it became apparent that anxiety was part of my inner spectrum of mental health issues. I had not really phrased it as such, but it had been growing. And it's to be expected with somebody with complex PTSD, somebody with depression issues. But it wasn't something that I thought I struggled with. And it hit a real terrible note there. And it's been a lot of therapy work as a result of that. So I've learned a lot about the dance between those conditions. I've learned a lot too about I overperform a lot. And so it's very difficult for me to trust that when I fuck up like that, that people can still love me, because I don't love myself, especially after stuff like that. So, and I love the fact that he was willing to put that question out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I know that people had to be wondering that. Oh, are we actually going to talk about this? And part of me was like, I'm going to have to bring it up if somebody doesn't ask it, because it has to be talked about. Like, we're having a discussion with a knight who has served a suspension. If we don't talk about that, so I guess a lot of it's learning about how many good things there are in the organization still. In spite of the issues, I'm very critical of our organization, but how many good people are here saying, yeah, all right, so forgive yourself, we're already over this, that's pretty huge. I also like taking up jujitsu was part of that, because in jujitsu it's this constant physical exertion and constant physical like pushing of imposing of will, like in all of that. And I wanted to be able to work that part of my brain and that part of my body out in ways that helped me come to the field better prepared. Also, I have to recognize that one of the things we don't do well as an organization is create the field as a safe space.
You struggle with it.
Yeah. Like I think, have there been places where I've watched, like, there's an army of Reeves on the field, or a culture of, these 3 veterans plus the 2 Reeves, always figure stuff out. Like, yeah, and have fields felt safe because of that? Absolutely. And it's not something that we excel at. It's not consistent. It's not the standard to which we hold ourselves all the time. So yeah,
Okay.
I think that's
Well, I appreciate you being
Yeah.
open and honest about it and discussing it. It was, again, it had to be discussed. You're coming on KOK.
yeah,
It's something that's happened in your AMP card career, so it's out there
it
now.
is.
It's been discussed.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, you're gonna get your
You're
opportunity
so
here.
done with it, aren't you?
Well, I wasn't aware of a couple of those facts that you just mentioned, and it just
Yeah.
makes me appreciate you as a person even more.
Mm.
So, we all have bad moments, but it happens.
Well, and to be blunt, like it wasn't just a bad moment. Me being frustrated with, especially when rules are not dealt with properly on the field, me
Mhm.
getting frustrated with that kind of stuff, that's from day one, and it's something I've had to work on throughout my amp guard career.
Sure.
But here, it bled over in some really obvious ways. I'm really proud of Edelsmith for making the tough call, and pulling the trigger on that suspension. Um, Good for, like, solid.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So anyway.
Okay, here's your opportunity.
All right.
Top 5 up and comers in your kingdom. Go.
Oh God, dude. Um. Jeez, man. So what's an up and comer?
I would say anyone that doesn't have a masterhood.
Okay. So in that case, like I immediately go to you and Stillhet as examples of what, yeah, tough shit. You go ask, I'm my answer.
Sure.
Like this is, yeah. I'm excited about, you mentioned Darius out of Glassfjord Highlands, excited about him. I think there's actually, at least the last time I visited out there were several folks that I really deeply love from Glassfjord Highlands that I think are up and coming. I'm excited. I'm excited about Scorpion's Pass. Like, I don't know these folks, but they're starting a park, and immediately I'm like, you asked for 5. This isn't gonna work, man. I don't know how the hell to do this. Hey, Kenjin, are you kidding me? Oh geez. Uh, oh God, I'm gonna mess up her name because I've only seen it online, but she's active everywhere. She's running for local park.
Beatrix.
Beatrix.
Yeah.
It's Bix a lot, isn't it? Beax.
Beatrix. Yeah.
Okay, Beatrix. Like somebody who joined during COVID, like when we're at our least LARPy, and has just dove right in. There's another. Oh man, yeah. So I don't know how to answer that honestly.
This was supposed to be the easy thing for you, because then we got to talk about other important. All right.
I mean, you know what I like about being a knight?
Yeah.
There's no limit to the number of belted relationships I can be in now, because that's just how, like, I just love all of these people, and I want them all to do awesome things.
When we get to the point where we talk about your belt line, if you're okay with it, I would like to talk about.
Are we going to talk about it?
Yeah, let's talk.
Good.
Okay.
Let's talk about it.
All right. So the next part of that question: who's the top 5 knights in Amtgard?
Oh God. Oh man, my COVID brain is not going to help here. Like, I mean, so honestly, because it. Okay, so top 5 knights in Am. Are you kidding me?
This question was posted. I did.
I know, but
okay.
But like, I wasn't sure we were going to get to all of them, and I'm like, okay, I like seriously, how am I supposed to do this? Okay, when like number one, I'm keenly aware because I've traveled and gone to events all over the country.
Mhm.
I'm keenly aware that there's a whole lot of awesome people,
Mhm. Yeah.
and I've seen a lot of awesome stuff. So everything from, well, I guess is Lady Armstrong's not a knight yet. Is she not a knight yet? I
I
don't
don't
know. I'm
believe
not
so.
sure she's playing still. Um, uh, Linden. God, I have to look at my home park and the way Sir Alucard was so patient with me early on. I have to look at my knight, Sir Randall, uh, Sir Ben, as I forget. I doubt he's surprised that I did that. Sir Anatole, she saying, I how do I do this? Like this is like 5?
You know what?
No.
I think you struggling to do this speaks to some of the positives Amsgard has.
And yeah, it does. It also, like, it points out my bias too.
Mhm.
Like, there are folks that I've interacted with so regularly that I counted on when I have done anything in the game to give feedback or offer wisdom of what has gone before. And I'm inherently biased toward those folks. And then when I think, oh God, what's his game name? He's a sword knight from Westmarch. Uh, oh damn, I'm gonna. Oh God, how do I? Delos? Like, how do I leave Delos and
There you go.
Harry out? Like, and like again, it's, even as I do this, I have to be so aware. I have named one person that we would label as female coded in that entire list.
I mean, Dame Azrael Jade, Admiral
Oh
and
God.
Cash, Admiral and Cash comes to
Yep.
mind.
Azrael Jade, like, she saved my ass so many times it's not even funny. Like, eh, and just, yeah, like, this is what I mean. Like, how do you name 5 out of this? Like,
It's true, but Dame Azrael Jade saves asses should be about favor.
and the other side of it, for when I'm on her shit list, is Dame Azrael Jade whoops asses.
Yep, there it is. There it is. And then she could just let us know what side we can wear that.
Yes.
Day, right? There it is. Yep.
There it is.
Yep. Okay.
That's the most significant moment in this entire episode, by the way.
All right.
All right.
We're to your knighthood questions at this point.
Okay.
We're 2 hours in. You're not going to be the longest episode of KOK, but you're gonna try. I can feel it.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I love talking to you. It's so good. So good.
Thank you for doing this stuff.
Of course.
This is amazing.
Of course. How does a Dragon Master project, how big does a Dragon Master project have to be a master's project? What about crowns? Could you just, what is a master's project for the 4 belts?
What is it, or what do I want it to be?
What do you want it to be?
That's a much easier one to answer, because what is it? I've been to events all over the country, and that varies widely.
Sure.
And I don't want to cast it as one thing is better than the other, although I've seen some pretty shit and I've seen some amazing stuff that was way under awarded. Okay, so what I want it to be is I want it to be signify growth in the person doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
I want it to signify something special for the kingdom. That doesn't mean it has to be new, but it needs to be significant, right?
Would you say a tarot deck would be a good master's project?
I mean, at Gen Con, I've seen artistry on a tarot deck yes, I would say that. And I've seen a tarot deck that would take a year to produce.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I can imagine ones that are. Somebody whipped out some crayons and threw it on there over the course of even a month. Probably not going to get my vote.
You've seen my artwork. Excellent.
Don't start that. I have seen your artwork, and that's not a description of it.
Okay. Oh, I love getting those burns in. Those are good.
I mean, that's the thing about a master's project. People often talk about, you know, the upper end of the ladder awards as still needing to be better than the previous thing. And I think that's a standard we have to move away from. Because
Okay.
I've seen people who were awarded their 6th for something that was master worthy. And I think we as a game have to get away from thinking that the ladder is the equivalent to the product that's being produced. The ladder is our way of recognizing additional contribution, right? And if somebody has a lot of growth to do, it's a great metaphor. But when somebody comes in and is a professional quilter and artisan at a like amazing, you know, level already, and they're being granted their 3rd, you know, dragon for it, expecting them to grow beyond that. Now a master will look at you and go, I'm still growing, and here's how I do it. And they can point out the 5th stitch on the 4th piece, you know, this right here was out of line on that one. It's not on this one.
Yep.
But as judges, we aren't even going to recognize that. So like, but I think that the 2% truth, here's a 2% truth example. The 2% truth of the notion that the ladder ward is supposed to signify growth is that we want it to be impactful. We want it to I want it to matter. I want it to, if it's going to be a masterhood, I want it to matter for the kingdom. I want it to matter for the artisan that did it. Whether it's a quilt or, you know, a 10th order of the crown, a crown master. Are we doing masterhood crowns yet, or are we just letting Grand Duke stand in and saying that's it?
No, I think it's gonna be Master Crown.
All right.
I don't want this to just mean, hey, no, Master, no. No.
But I mean, it's an example of, you know, so how do you top a, if I was to come back and run for Monarch, how would I do something that is supposedly a greater contribution than what I did during the serving as the first floating crown monarch?
Sure.
There's I don't care how cool whatever work we do is, it's going to be different and it's going to have an impact, I would hope, if we, you know, I want it to have an impact. I want it to be significant, but there's no way what I did there, what we did there, that is always going to have its own place just because of the time that it was bound by. And it's not just what we did, it's the time that it was bound by. It was a revolutionary time for our kingdom. So I guess the notion of endless growth, that to me, I'm more interested in impact and significance and like what it means.
Yeah. I think we have a term that's in the Order of the Crowns, Order of the Crown points previously, that can go across all 4 spectrums, and that's with excellence.
Yep.
It doesn't qualify that it has to be better than your previous work. It doesn't qualify it has to be better than someone else's work. It just qualifies it has to be good.
And I would add, if I see large growth needs in the work, I will hope to see that get improved upon.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
If I see a what I call an artisan who is doing 4th to 6th level work, and they're going for that 7th, 8th push, I'm going to want to see him correct things. You know, I want to see him making new mistakes, right? But again, like, let's recognize when we're working with masters, because sometimes we are. And, you know, we're not going to see the same, we as judges are not going to see the same kind of growth out of folks like that.
Yeah.
It's just not, we won't see it. It'll be there. We just won't see it.
Yep. Also, like, these the people that made these two items and the person
Yeah.
that made this one can tell you what the problems are with all three of these,
Yes.
but
Yep.
very few other people can.
Yeah.
So always remember that like
Yeah.
what you think is a 6th level could be a 9th level
Yep.
or a master hood. So okay. We kind of already talked about the Smith in Dragon's Spine, where we got potential for that. There's a couple of
Yeah.
people that have got potential to get to a Master Smith position.
Woo!
Master Owl, yeah, super good for our game. But what do you think it takes to be a knight?
So here's a fun little thing. I really think masterhood and knighthood are their own peaks and they are separate.
Mhm.
Um, I'm on the bandwagon of I don't think masterhood is should be a prerequisite for knighthood.
Okay.
I think uh, kingdom level awards should be required because to make a knight, to be a knight, you need to be recognized and have standing within the whole kingdom, not just
Hmm.
your park, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
But I think they're actually two different, very different characteristics, and I've made this argument before. So like currently, duchies can only hand up through 8th level,
Uh
right?
huh.
So for me, a prerequisite for knighthood, the branch off of the thing, would come at the ninth, at least a ninth order
Hmm.
of one of our ladder awards. So that's the first thing that I would say what it takes to be a knight is I want to see excellence in their area,
Hmm.
not perfection. A masterhood, I want to see mastery, right? It, perfection's a dumb word. I want to see mastery of the thing. I don't require total mastery of a knight. I require other things.
Hmm.
Whereas the master may be a shitty teacher,
Yeah.
right? So they may be the most amazing I've been using visual arts a lot. Like, okay, they may be the most amazing at game design. Let's go into that one, right?
Hmm.
um just they understand all the inner workings. They're the person that I want on my team when I go to an event because they're the person that's going to point out that we can exploit this, that, and the other thing just by
Hmm.
doing this, that, and the other thing and win, you know. Like they're that person that just has a mind for that stuff. And when they design a battle game, there's cool moving parts but not too many moving parts, and
Hmm.
there's great NPCs but not too many NPCs, and there's great areas to fight but not too much, you know. But you can't win by just any one of these amazing things within it. It's the person that you just sit there going, holy crap, like, yeah. Um, that's a master. They may be terrible at teaching game design. I don't need them to be good at teaching game design. I need them in their workshop making new games,
Hmm.
right? Imagining new games. That's where I need the master. The knight needs to be able to do a good job with the like needs to be able to always drop down and have a game, pull it out and throw it on the table.
Yeah.
Like as a young monarch who looks around and goes, crap, the game that I had planned just got totally trashed because this, that, and the other thing happened. They should be able to look at a knight of the Smith. So I mean, Knight of the Serpent, but a Smith path knight, and you should be able to look at them and say, I need a game, and they can do it on the
Yeah.
spot. Will it be perfect? No. Will it have all those moving parts and intricacies of the masterhood, that game? No. Uh, but it'll be great on the field and people will enjoy playing it. Um, and most importantly, the knight will have looked at that young monarch and said to her, these are the things that we're weak on at the park, and I want to try to help develop it. Like that's what a knight always has development of the organization on his or her mind, their mind. The knight always has all of that at stake. They always want the best from people and they know how to call it forth. That to me is a knight, and I don't care what discipline they are. Um, they can produce excellence in their field. Yes, yeah. Like you got to be able to do that. More importantly, you got to be able to teach it. Um, and then you got to want the best to be able to bring the best forth from the folks
Sure.
that you're around.
Isn't it fair to say that Sword Knight already kind of has it built in? We expect a warlord to be very good at fighting, but not necessarily the teacher. They're just very good at it. And then when you become a Sword Knight, now you are excellent at the craft and also are supposed to be teaching.
Yeah, except that warlord is still a prerequisite,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
I think it's time for that to go.
Okay.
I and especially because I think those two charisms are actually diametrically opposed, oftentimes.
Hmm.
Sergion, I've been fortunate enough to watch the end of his rise, and then what he's done beyond becoming a knight, right,
Hmm.
so to speak. So I got to see him uh, deliberately, like he had a personal challenge that he wanted to see how many griffins, how honorable he could be in a tournament, right? He wanted to see how many griffins he could rack up while doing this.
Hmm.
That is a rounding out that's way beyond a warlord. That's very different from a warlord. A warlord is about imposing will on the battlefield,
Hmm.
and I will put you in the ground with my stick. Like
Yeah.
that's what a warlord is about, right? This was a different charism. That to me was a knightly charism. So I get, yeah, so I guess that's yes, it is the sword path is often pointed to um as like one with some clear things, because we expect somebody to go out there and win a tournament x number of times before we can do the warlord thing.
Hmm.
um I I just think I've met a lot of ninth and 10th level folks who were better teachers than some of our warlords in game,
Sure.
and were people that I look up to a lot more. That makes sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I
Yeah.
agree. Um, I mean,
Mm.
there's a lot of talk, and we're about to get to a question where I have a podium I get on every week. Yeah,
Oh,
so
hit it!
almost two questions.
All right.
If the monarch approaches a circle with a suggestion for a new knight, what does it take for you to say yes?
Um, First off, I need to see the qualities that I already mentioned,
Hmm.
right? Um, so that's the easy, like, well, I need to see those things. Number
Yep.
one. Number two, I'm going to listen to the questions. If we have some amazing knights in this kingdom, I'm going to listen to the questions that are asked by those folks. Typically, I won't vote early because I'm still a very young knight, bluntly. Um, so so I won't vote early. I will try to hold back because I want to see what kind of questions the other some of the knights who've been doing this longer have about that person. Um, this is not as true now, and I feel like it's my responsibility to fix it. But I probably should already know this person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like I'm a well-traveled veteran of our kingdom. Um, I probably should already know them,
Hmm.
at least something about them. Um, so that's an expectation that like right now I feel like I'm falling down on because I haven't, it's also COVID,
Hmm.
but I feel like I don't know people as well as I did. And I want to shift that. I'm going to have to go say hi to folks and, meet the new faces. Um, so that's part of the question. And the other part is, as a knight of the crown, when you come to me as king, um, or as king or queen, king, whatever title you're using, because I love that people have so much variety in that. It's so awesome. When you come to me as kingdom monarch and you say, I want to put this person forward, I'm also looking at you
Sure.
as the candidate. because I want to know what you're made of. So the other part of what I'm doing is I want to hear you talk about how that person impacted you,
Mhm.
how they made a difference in your life, because that's the thing about knighthood. I yeah, all right, this is quote unquote just a game. No, it's not. It's a nonprofit organization. We are entrusted with people's humanity in it, and if we are entrusted with that, I require that we affirm it. And knighthood is the thing that damn well better be doing that. And if I don't hear you, if your humanity's not been brought forth by this person, I'm not going to be sold on it. Also, I'm looking at you and how your humanity comes forth as you look at this, as you're willing to hear feedback and all of that stuff. I'm not just thinking about two knights when somebody presents. I'm looking at the person in the hot seat too, and saying, what kind of a knight are they going to be? So it's a complex thing.
Mhm.
What was when when Stillhead came to us about the grant the title for you,
Mhm.
right? Um, a lot of my questions I already knew the answers to. I didn't like. I wasn't asking because I wanted the information. I just wanted to hear her articulate it, because I knew that the more time she articulated it, the more comfortable she was going to be articulating it, and the more people who were going to hear what an amazing job you did, and and know it clearly and be able to
Mhm.
point to immediately, so that nobody ever questions that thing that's hanging on your wall. Because there's an integrity piece there too, I guess,
Sure.
right? Like that has to have meaning. Um, so so yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on when somebody comes to me with something like that. Um, I think of it as I get, we get to practice how we talk about these things.
Sure.
Um, and some of that has nothing to do with the candidate.
Mm. Well,
So
and you got to always remember as a person giving awards out that you're tied to the person you gave the award to.
yes,
So if you give someone a Grand Duke title and then, they go on a murder spree and it was, a personality trait you probably could have caught up on, you might get a little, a black mark on your reputation for being so willing to, you
that
know,
that personally is one of the things that I feel the worst about, is that Edelsbeth dropped a sword on me and then 3 months later had to suspend me. Like that to me was my biggest failing in that entire thing, was I feel like I hurt. uh I hope people thought as well of Edelsbeth as he deserved for the good work that he was doing, and not just seeing that he knighted somebody and then had to suspend him. You know what I
well,
mean? Because you're exactly right.
yeah. Well, KOK viewers love Edelsbeth, so
Good,
that's yeah,
good.
we're fine. Okay, I'm gonna ask you the question. I'm gonna get on my soapbox first, and I'm gonna ask you if you agree or disagree.
Do it.
How do you feel about the Paladin anti-Paladin opening discussion? Okay, it's being talked about a lot. Lightning just put out or the awards committee just put out another survey. If we're gonna open them up, my suggestion would be that sure they can become their own classes, but Knight and Paragon still need to have perks inside the game. My suggestion is all the open paladin and anti-paladin, and then you get a special perk for being a knight for whatever class you're playing, and a special perk for being a paragon if you're a paragon in that class. It would promote Dragonspine making more paragons, which we fail at pretty
Mm-hmm.
significantly. The last year aside, it's COVID, whatever, but it also still gives the knight a perk for having a white belt. We give a lot of responsibilities to our knights, and we want to remove some of the perk. Sure, the classes suck, whatever. We still need giving them one day
I'm
where
still gonna play it because I want to be a paladin.
right, exactly. Taking one day and saying, well, we give them a bunch of gifts, and that's enough for them to be in a white belt and be in a leadership role for the rest of the time they play Amtgard is not fair. So
Yeah.
I would say you have 6 levels of a class, a knight perk and a paragon perk, and only paragons can get the perk in that class, and only knights can get the paragon in those class, and they're not significant to break the game. They're just something extra.
Yeah.
We would consider it kind of like look the part.
Yeah, I mean that's actually a great model to look at. Oh man, so this is one where I know that I'm biased because I didn't get to play Paladin. And it's like It's a class I will always play in a game when it's available at some point,
Sure.
even if it's bad, because I just love paladins. Damn it. It's my first class in World of Warcraft.
Sure. Yeah.
Back in vanilla, I was the cloth wearing paladin healer. That's what I did. Okay, so so I'm not sure there's a hill I'm going to die on here because I know that I'm biased because I came up through a system where we didn't get to play that, right? And now I've earned the right to, and I'm excited about it. I do think there's something interesting there around the fact that when you look at the archetypes of paladins and anti-paladins, these are the armor-wearing behemoths who are a force to be reckoned with on the battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
And if now let's just really observe the if there's a justification for maintaining the knighthood requirement for those two classes, that to me is the only justification. Number one. Number two, what I love about our system the way it is right now is you can still have full plate wearing behemoths who are a different class, and that you don't have to be a knight in order to play.
Sure.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's both significant, important, and good. Because I know Belthil, for example, would show up before he was Sir Belthil. He would show up in full on, armor as a warrior, and we all knew he was a paladin. Like, he just didn't have that yet,
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's a hill I'm going to die on saying yes or no. I haven't been convinced yes or no on that. I do think that there's something significant about the archetype, and in keeping that is near and dear to my heart, and I'm probably biased about it. So, okay. If we go away from it, I love the notion that knights, and now I'm starting to wonder, so how do we play that out in every class that a knight plays to encourage our knights to play all of the classes and to model all of the classes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where my brain goes, the look the part thing is an excellent place to go for kind of mining it and saying, what do you get for playing a wizard as a knight? You know, that's a really cool notion. I'm interested to see what the rules minded people can
Mm-hmm.
come up with for something like that, because it's the workings of these things that I'm not as good at. I'm not the guy that sits down and immediately spots the exploits.
Sure.
Right. I'm the guy that knows to pick that guy and have him on my team.
Sure. Yeah. I'm just
Right.
an idea guy. I wouldn't be able to tell you how the rules would work around it, but it seems like it would be a way to keep there being a prestige without forcing classes to be closed.
What I also like about that is it, especially if it's perks for every class, um, is that it encourages our knights to model more classes, and encourages our knights to be true to their characters too. So there's something really cool about that. What does a knightly wizard look like?
Right. Right.
I don't know, but I want to find out now.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an interesting. I'm curious. I want to hear more discussion on it. This is bluntly, this is the most compelling thing I've heard on the notion of decoupling it, other than the basic. A lot of the tropes that I hear about this discussion are, well, it's you're gating that one thing, and my response is always I look at Belthil's story and I'm like, that guy was a freaking paladin from the get-go. It was what he was RPing it instead of having access to the class, but we all knew what he was. He was a paladin of Bahamut, and we all knew it. But it just, so I guess most of the arguments that I hear are typically, to me, in my eyes, man, learn to fucking RP. Get out there and RP this shit.
Yep.
Go for it. This is your way of constructing this looks at it very differently, and I like what you're going after there. So yeah, That's an interesting thing. It also appeals to my sense of fairness, bluntly.
Hey,
Um,
look at me.
yeah.
I try.
I love the notion that knights should be playing other classes too.
Mhm.
Like and to have perks in other classes really makes it more fun. Um, I also though have to ask the question, do we really need any more perks? And I'm not sure we do.
Well, if you wanted to say the knights don't get a perk in that instance, I would still argue that you do that same system, but Paragon still gets a perk. So if you show up as an archer with a silver lining on your sash, there's an additional thing you get to do. You know,
Hmm.
and if the knight part of that discussion is just going to go away because everyone is content with giving them 1 day of ceremony and then calling them sir, fine. I don't think it's enough. But there again, if it was up to me, the knights would also be a bigger part of every decision we were making. So
I mean, yeah, I did that. Like I I leaned on knight. That's why it's so hard. You top 5 knights in Amtgard, and I'm like I can't even pick 5 of the knights that I depended on as monarch.
sure.
Like I remember sitting here at the Celtic Fest talking to Dame Leela and Sir Andre about I don't remember what we were talking about, but I remember sitting there and really wrestling with something with them, trying to figure out how to deal with it. Um, it just like
Can I say
yeah.
that I absolutely adore that you haven't brought up Leela all night, but got her Amtgard name right, and then called Andre Sir Andre instead of Sir
Oh
Alucard?
God! Thank you,
You're welcome.
Sir Alucard. Thank you. Good God. Like and you know what? When I was having all the conflict with Sun's Haven,
Hmm.
they were the ones that traveled with me down there and sat in the shit with me
Hmm.
and listened to all the things that people were hurt about and upset about because I had suspended one of their important players.
Hmm.
Um, like so I come on, how do you yeah, sorry,
I don't have to answer the
pick
question.
5.
I
Yeah.
run the show, so yeah.
I see how it is.
Yeah.
We're you
Yeah.
okay.
If we get to 100
One day, my
episodes,
friend.
I'll do episode 100. I already did one episode. I
Uh-huh.
did Deverick and Beatrix got to roast me for an hour. I'll do it if we get to 100.
All right. All right. We're doing this.
Okay. Still
I
would
love
like
it.
to know what's your thoughts on a fifth night belt? This would be the one that's being discussed game wide, the battle game night.
Um, so I saw the write up and I responded to the survey. Um, and I I guess I'm not on a hill I'm going to die on here. The hill I will die on is I want to see RP matter, and I
Mhm.
want to see knights who are made because of RP. That hill I will die on. I want to see knights who were made knights because of skill in designing battle games. A hill I will die on.
Mhm.
If a 4th knighthood or a 5th knighthood helps us accomplish that, great. I'm not convinced we have to do that. I'm not convinced that it's distinct enough from our other trees, but it may be the very fact that it feels to me like a combination of trees that may be what it's distinct about.
Well, so you mentioned earlier that you and Sir Glenelg talked
Maybe
about.
we need to say screw the whole like notion of I'm a knight of this discipline and you're
Mm,
just a fucking knight. Like, all right, so you came up through that, but now you're a knight. That's it. You don't wear 4 belts. You can only wear 1 belt. So sorry. There's anyway, yeah. Sorry, you were saying.
what I was going to say was you and Sir Glenelg were having a conversation earlier about masks
Yeah,
and masks being part of the dragon line, but it doesn't get awarded as such. This would be an opportunity with a 5th belt where you're like, hey, one of the letter
absolutely.
awards is mask, you know, and
And bluntly, so in terms of organizational development, we are in the phase where we are splitting things out. I mean, originally you weren't knighted for a discipline; you were just knighted in
mhm,
in the game. right? And there were no ladder awards, right? There was no award standardization. All those things didn't exist. And so when the disciplines developed around that, then the people who'd been knighted already just kind of chose, their discipline.
Mhm.
Uh, Keith Dursa, God, I'm gonna forget his in-game name. See, this is what happens to me when all I have is Facebook stuff for a year. Believe he was the first sword knight in the game, if memory serves.
Okay.
And he was knighted for honor on the battlefield, not like taking shots honor, but because he refused to betray somebody in the middle of a huge battle game event. And he refused to break his word about who he was going to stand with when everyone else abandoned them. Right. That was why he was knighted, and then ended up being the first, I believe, the first sword knight. So this is a very different environment. So structurally, we are in the place where we are breaking these things out and defining them and parsing them.
Mhm.
That can only continue for so long.
Mhm.
It's not actually healthy for us as people to say, I this is my one thing. It's just not good. Like, to be a crown knight, you've had to do all the things. You had to make shit for all those quals.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
You probably had to RP along. You had to fight along the way. You had to, like, so I'm not convinced that the continued dispersion of these things and parsing of these things is helpful. That being said, we may still be in a phase where dispersal is important for us to recognize that certain things are worthy of knighthood, and
Mhm.
battle gaming is worthy of knighthood. RP is worthy of knighthood. So part of me wants to say, if that helps us do this, then great, let's fucking do it. But man, let's have a wider discussion about why we have to, like, continue using this Greek system of parsing everything to the nth degree,
Mhm.
instead of just looking at human beings and saying, look at all right, so they're at the ninth order in this, but they've also got all these other things that they're up to. This is obviously a knight.
Mhm.
you know we don't need them to be a master. That's still a single discipline thing
Sure.
that has, some really important traditions behind it. Knighthood, man.
Knighthood,
let's
man.
remember Well, let's remember where this came from. Like, people were knighted just because they were the grandson of somebody who paid the king to knight them.
Yeah.
Like, let's reclaim this tradition from all that crap. Let's make it something really important. I don't know.
Well,
That was a
it,
lot of words.
well, yeah, but it's a discussion needs to happen. I mean, Sir Smiley's in the chat with the one hashtag one belt. So you know,
Of course.
all right.
I'm trying to figure out how to look at these. I'm watching the live feed and I can't.
I
Yeah.
got
All
two
right.
computers. That's how I do it.
Well, I've got a second one here and I can't.
All
Anyway.
right. I'm
Okay.
gonna spell something out for you. I need you to pronounce it for me.
Okay.
Okay. Tajima.
Tajima.
Tajima. That's how you say it. That's the question. How do you say that?
Oh, well, yeah, but, like, he probably had he had to repeat that to me a bunch of times before I got it right,
Well,
just for the
also
record.
to his knight. But that brings up the question. You and Tajima are belt siblings. Who is your favorite belt sibling, and why is it not Tajima?
I don't pick favorites. And
Okay.
oh man, I'm all right. I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna beg Tajima's forgiveness ahead of time if he didn't want anyone talking about this. When he God, he's one of the people that I really wanted in my belt line. Um, he was one of the people that I was really excited to work with, and I wish that I had been emotionally in a place where I could have given him that. Um, so part of me is super jealous that Sir Randall's getting to work with him. So that's first off. I hope I'm not, violating anything there. It was, yeah, those discussions were a lot of fun. So know that I love Tajima. But I also love all my other belt siblings, like for a million different reasons, including several that don't play Amtgard anymore, but
Mhm.
are still really important people to me. Um, so yeah, I mean, favorite? Nah,
Okay.
nope.
All right. So this question, because you are
Yeah,
part of a pretty illustrious belt line, you can
yeah.
start with you and talk down, or if you want to talk up, that's fine too. But tell us about your belt line.
All right. So first off, you just articulated for me one of the things that I will not be a part of
Oh,
as a knight.
okay.
No, nope. It's still part of my thinking too, but I'm not going to think about things in terms of up and down. I just won't do it. I know that we have a lot of hierarchical stuff that we have inherited from our supposed tradition, but come on, man, we got people throwing fireballs out there. They didn't have fucking fireballs in the Middle Ages. It
Sure.
just wasn't a thing. We can be more imaginative about how we think about these things. We don't have to go with hierarchy and ups and downs. I want to think, because I don't think this way wholly yet, but I want
Hmm.
to think about the interconnectedness of a web when I
Hmm.
think about my belted community.
Hmm.
I want to think about the fact that I have this very strong strand to Sir Randall that goes way back beyond him too, to
Hmm.
one of the first nights in the game. That I'm going to now blank on all of that history that I've heard at least 4 times from him, and still is not in my bones. Um, so like that's really cool and really important to me. And then I look at what I want to do with the community that I'm going to intentionally create around this white belt.
Hmm.
And that's yeah, I want to think in terms of circles. I want to think in terms of, of webs and connections.
Hmm.
um so it's been growing and changing. Are we going to talk about us here?
I will get your belt. I was going to ask
All
after,
right.
but go ahead,
All right.
get your.
Okay. So, uh, so my hope for the Belted community that I want to create, my hope is
Hmm.
to have somebody from every park in Dragonspine
Hmm.
as a part of it. Number one. Number two, it's and this is something that I came to realize in discussions with a couple of people about belted relationships is, well, a lot of people come to me and present as white men. I want to see more than that in this belt line. I want to be really intentional about providing a space for marginalized voices and marginalized identities.
Hmm.
So if you're a cishet white guy and you're coming to me talking about a belt, even if I love you, I'm going to tell you what the price of admission is, and it's bringing somebody along that makes this that's not a cishet white guy, like,
Hmm.
and whether they're a part of your belted family, like that's again, like I want the belted family to be, or not family. I don't want to use that word. I think we use that word. A lot of us have really troublesome family issues.
Sure.
The belted community that I want to create. Uh, well, okay, so uh, Gideon. Let's talk about. He's one of my squires,
Hmm.
and one of the things I'm most excited about with him is that he brought somebody to me and said, I'd like to belt this person, and I want to bring that person into the whole family, because it's not just, yeah, I don't just mentor Gideon,
Hmm.
right? He mentors me too. And I expect him to mentor the other people in the line, even as I expect them to mentor him. That's what I'm talking about. I want cross pollination. I want craziness. So when he's wanting within the game, he's going to be the one granting the belt to this person, right? Which
Hmm.
is still very hierarchical because that's the way our organization is. But what I want is I want the whole organization to be able to look at this person. And this is not unique. Sir Randall does this. I believe, does Dame Azrael Jade do this? Yeah, in fact, in fact, Balder got in trouble when he belted me originally because he hadn't checked with her first. Um, but I want consent from the entire organization, because I want everybody in that organization to want to be in relationship with that person.
Hmm.
That's the community I want to create, where we all understand that this is not all everyone relates to Bai Hu. It's that we all do this thing together and that we're stronger because of it. Um, so that's, yeah. very long answer, but that's what I want to create. And it's beginning much more slowly than I wanted because I expect everything to be a home run right out of
Sure.
the gates, blah 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 blah
Sure.
blah blah. But it's beginning. Yeah.
So, how many times
So
did you offer me a Squire's belt?
God. All right, so I don't know how many. Was it only 3?
It was 3 times. Yeah.
Okay. Because at least one of those times I was drinking, and I may have said it more than once.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. The one that stands out to me the most, I mean, the one at Wyvern's Juice was fun because Sir Randall and Sir Sane also were like, hey, he already said no to you once.
Yeah.
But the one that stands out to me is the one at Lumpy Lair event because you and I went off and talked and you gave me the spiderweb conversation.
Yeah.
And I was like, Royce, I would do anything for you up to and excluding taking a belt. Like I could do this work for you without being your belt. And because to
Yeah.
me, that tradition still that the hierarchy, I get that it's problematic, but it's still there. And I'm
Yeah.
prior service and there's still, so
It
eh,
means something different to you.
yeah. But
Yeah.
I knew that was going to come up, and I just want to keep pointing out that we've had the conversation multiple times, and I love you, and I will continue to love you.
And I love you, and I'm still sad about this one.
It's all right. You got Gideon's great. You're going to find
Oh
plenty of
yeah.
others that are great.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, so
So back to a question from earlier.
mhm,
One of the most important things in these belted relationships to me is genuine connection with the human being
mhm,
wearing it. Um, and that's part of why what I do is I want to go to people that I'm like, I want to hit accept on the call at 3 a.m. if
mhm.
you are the one calling, because I genuinely love you. I genuinely want to know what's happening, and I want to be there for you. You know, so yeah, and more than likely I won't stop offering either. Just so you
I figured, but
know.
it's still fun to be able to get that out there.
It's
Okay,
true.
so we've gotten to the last section of KOK.
All right,
It's the toughest questions. It's the funny questions.
all right.
Zachary would like to know how many swords is too many swords?
Um, that's not actually a number. It's infinity. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's the one number past having all of them, right?
it really. I'm a gear whore, man. Come on, like, have you seen my garage?
No, but
I'll show you, like, the number of different, like, God, my sword. I carry around a bag of swords, and that's maybe half of them. Like, yeah. Good
okay.
question.
Okay. He also wants to know what's the best named sword? What's the best name of a sword ever?
Ah. First off, swords should have names.
Hmm.
So let's just get that straight. They should have names. Um, I the first one that comes to mind, I know it's not actually my favorite. Oh man, was there one in what was the name of the sword? Oh, Lord of the Rings ones? Oh God.
Uh,
That's the yeah, all right. And
Charles
then
is going to get really mad
oh why?
because you're not going to remember the sword name from Lord of the Rings. Charles is going to.
I know. God. So there's Gandalf's sword from that was really that one had a cool name. Also, there was a book that about dragons. What was that one? Oh, Saphira. The dragon's name was Saphir. Aragon. There it is.
Okay.
That one had a named sword also, if I remember correctly. Okay. Well, anyway, the first thought into my head is actually Oathkeeper
Okay.
from Game of Thrones.
Hmm.
It was the sword I was knighted with. I feel like to me that's the embodiment of what I believe for me knighthood centers on is, keeping my word and following through
Mhm.
and being a person of integrity. Um, so that one to me really resonates deeply. But man, there's a whole bunch of other cool names that I'm just blanking on right now. There you go.
Oh,
And yes, I'm going to have to do penance for Sir saying.
well, that's fair. Uh, I also like the concept of naming your own swords. We did this as a challenge actually, where you got to design your own relic and you got to name it. And we're still telling stories of some of those weapons. It's still part of my journals for quals. The Garanara, which is
That's
Kodiak's sword.
beautiful.
Yeah. Anyways, Sir Smiley would
My
like to
two
know.
swords, my
Yeah.
two swords, by the way, are always tooth and claw.
Oh, there we go. There we go. It's,
There you go.
he's tiger through and through. Uh,
Yeah.
Sir Smiley would like to know what's your favorite color.
Purple.
That's a second best answer you could have given.
Oh, I see. Now we're gonna rate my answers.
Well, if I'm gonna have a bias about color, it's going to be orange is number one. Sorry,
I,
I can't fight. I can't fight my urges there.
I don't understand that one, but it's okay.
That's
We'll go with it.
It's fine. Actually, I do have a story connected to it. Uh,
Okay.
one time I was talking with Sir Glenolf, and we're talking about the fact that the idea of orange didn't exist. And he's like, well, that's not technically true. Orange may have existed, but we may have just called it like a light red or an off red or a dark yellow.
Uh-huh.
And the term as far as like a medieval conception of orange may have not itself wouldn't have existed. And I'm like, you know what? That just makes it even more special that orange is the best color.
Also, did you see what Sir Randall wrote there
I did not.
while you were saying that? We've been judging your answers all night.
Yeah, well, that's fair. That's
God,
fair. Yeah, yeah. You got to check it on the chat every now and then because the chat they come at you.
They're popping
come hard.
off. They're
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. All right. One of my favorite questions. I didn't give you a
Orange.
chance to read it beforehand. Who would play you in a live action Amtgard movie?
So this one's a weird one for me
Mm-hmm.
because it when back when George Clooney was actually like the age that I am now, or maybe younger,
Mm-hmm.
people would tell me that I looked like him.
Okay.
So there's like the objective me would say that's probably the direction that we'd end up going. The like me says no, like that man won the fucking sexy awards like left and right. That's not me. Like Steve Buscemi, he could play me. And he'd probably have fun doing it.
You shouldn't rule out how sexy Steve Buscemi is. Okay.
Also fair. Yep. Also fair.
All right. Okay. So in this live action movie where Steve Buscemi or George Clooney might be playing you, what is the theme song?
Oh. All right. Two answers.
Okay.
The first one, it just like popped. It almost like flew out of my mouth before you were done with the question.
Okay.
Like, all right, well, I guess that just happened.
I don't count down.
Yeah. Or Eye of the Tiger. That probably was in there somewhere too.
Yeah.
But actually, a song Sir Gian sent me like a month ago. He knows of my like love of rock. And he sent me a song by Unleash the Archers called Wind That Shapes the Land. And it's just fucking, I want to do karaoke when I listen to this song. That's the theme song.
Okay. All right.
There you go.
Lightning would like to know, would you rather adopt 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck?
One horse-sized duck.
Okay. Stillhead would like to know, what's your favorite conspiracy and what's your favorite Amtgard conspiracy?
Okay, favorite Amtgard conspiracy is that Sir Randall is in charge of everything, and everything in the entire organization has to go through him.
Yeah.
What a crock of shit. God, that one just, it won't die. Like, Jesus. Okay, so that's that one. Favorite like conspiracy. So okay, let's have fun. This one's an interesting one for me. Is to look at like the truth, the 2% truth. I love the 2%, the notion of a 2% truth.
Mhm.
So the conspiracies around 9/11, right?
Okay.
That our government bombed our own buildings.
Mm-hmm.
No, we fucking didn't.
Right.
Okay? Facts. And if I look at history, we created the people that flew those planes in.
Mm-hmm.
We created them when we funded their cells and taught them how to be terrorists at School of the Americas and all
Mm-hmm.
these different ways of operating that are really problematic in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there's a way in which we did bomb our own things, even though like we didn't. So I think that's an example of, to me, the way conspiracy theory works,
Yeah.
right? There's always that 2% truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
I don't like conspiracies. That's my issue. I'm
Well,
like
yeah.
favorite one. Give
I'm not a I'm not a huge
me
fan of them
science.
myself, but yeah, right. But some people do. And then when you're like, oh, I hate all conspiracies, but this one, every time I hear it makes me chuckle, that
All right. The second shooter of JFK. That one's my favorite because of the TV show. Oh God, Umbrella Academy.
hmm
Right? That one has this fun little subplot around the shooter on the hill, and that one makes me chuckle now. So
okay.
there you go.
All right. This one comes with a preface. Keep in mind that your newest belt brother is one. Are birds real?
Are birds real?
Yes.
All right. So first off, if I say no, Sir Randall will still have consequences that will be rained down upon me. So there you go. Like I have to say yes. Good God.
Okay.
What are you doing here?
So if they're real, who do they work for?
I can't tell you that or I'd have to kill you.
That's fair. That's fair. Most people are willing to tell me, and that's the strange part. So, yeah. Lightning's back with another question. How is your puppy doing, and how is she so adorable?
Well, I have not yet turned her into tacos. So she's still alive, and we have decided that she will remain so for another day. Good God. Seriously, I'm so done with raising small things.
That's fair. But interesting that you mentioned tacos.
Oh, I love tacos. That's part of it.
Okay. Well, the next
right.
question.
All right.
A hot dog. Is it a sandwich or a taco?
I mean, why the dichotomy?
Well, I mean,
Isn't a taco just a sandwich too?
Oh no. Well, now you've just made the next question for next week. Is a taco a sandwich? And now we've got to get into the deep discussions. Where does this go?
I mean, the ontological roots of this. I'm just going to throw out stupid words that I learned in seminary that I don't remember the names of, or the definitions of. Sorry, that's where we're at.
Sure. Okay. Well, does it change what it is if the middle piece of bread breaks on a hot dog bun?
All right, so here's the challenge with this kind of stuff. Like, if you're going to zero in to that much of a micro level, you're no longer examining the whole. You're just examining the break in the bread.
Yeah.
And all you've determined is that there's a break in the bread.
Yeah. Hi. Welcome to KOK, where things are made up and points don't matter.
Well, in that case, I'm winning.
Yeah. Right. Okay. All right. Well, how about what's your favorite thing to add to a bowl of yogurt?
It depends. First off, is the yogurt plain already?
Well, my favorite is vanilla honey.
See, vanilla honey is so I love vanilla honey to start because I
Mhm.
don't really have to add any sweeteners in, right?
Right.
And then I like to add granola.
Mm-hmm.
I like to add nuts.
Mm-hmm.
I like to add stuff that gives it a little crunch
Yep.
here and there. And there's a specific way you have to eat this too. You have to sprinkle a little on the top and you eat it all off the top. And then you sprinkle a little more on and then you
Sure.
eat it all off the top. Because
Yeah.
that way you keep the crunchy. So there you go.
Okay. Waffle or pancakes?
Waffle.
All right. Twix, left or right?
Left.
Okay. What would you do if you witnessed Kodiak putting cheese whiz on takoyaki? Takoyaki.
What's takoyaki?
It still would have to define it in the chat before.
And the worst part is I've probably eaten it, but I didn't understand what it was.
I know I've eaten it. She just got mad one day because I took peanut butter and put it on a crunch wrap.
I mean,
I also put ranch on yakisobe, which is her next question.
yeah. I mean, am I going to throw up if I see you doing this at the table? No. Am I going to give you a shit about it? Yes.
Yeah, but
Absolutely.
if you didn't give me shit about it, am I really living?
There's the thing. So, but what is that actually a reflection of our relationship, or is it a reflection of my judgment about like ranch? Come on, what the hell is ranch? It's just runny sour cream with a bunch of fucking on it.
It's white gold, is what it is. Your knight would side with me on this.
He probably would.
He probably would.
But since he's not here, I get to say, well, I mean, he's in there, but he's not on the screen.
That's fair. That's fair. I could just send him a link, but why would I do that? All right.
Oh, do.
So we're now at the part of KOK where Sir Smiley asks a bunch of questions, and they're real, and we're going to test you, and you have to get at least one of these right.
Oh, God. Can I Google while you ask?
If you can do it fast enough.
Okay.
Ever since World War II, what beverage equipment is furnished in British battle tanks?
This is such an interesting one because, like, my initial was like, well, you got to have it, probably CO2 powered beer is my first thing.
Okay.
Like, you should probably have that in there. That's probably not what it is because that would be dangerous and stupid.
Sure.
But that's what I would want to see is I want to see a CO2 or not a CO2, a nitrous beer tap in there for oh God, there's so many good like nitrous taps in anyway.
So is your answer beer?
Yes.
Okay, it's tea. Moving on. The
tea.
shortest.
Of course, it's tea.
Yes, the shortest war in human history was between England and Zanzibar. Zanzibar. How many hours did it last?
2.
No hours. 38 to 40 minutes.
There you go.
What famous children's party game that doesn't involve a ball was an Olympic event from 1900 to 1920?
Oh, interesting. 1900 to 1920. Children's party. Pin the tail on the donkey.
Tug of war.
Tug of war?
Yeah.
That's not a children's game.
I don't make the questions. I just read them.
We do that over a pit of like mud. Like we're going down if we're going down.
Maybe they went down. All right. The name of the Beatles' debut album is?
Damn it. This is one I should know. I don't. The Beatles.
No. Please, please me.
That you know what? Sounds like happiness is a warm gun.
How many people have already walked on the moon?
1.
12.
What?
12? Yeah. Well, you know Neil Armstrong to be the first one, but Buzz Aldrin also stepped on the moon that day.
Oh shit, you're right. Okay.
So the first person was Neil Armstrong, but
Yeah.
there's been multiple excursions to the moon, and we know on the
12?
first one, yeah, 12 is what it says.
I
I'm
thought we
sure
hadn't gotten back there. Oh man.
maybe we haven't.
Oh.
That's the new conspiracy you need to follow.
Oh God, that whole thing. What a crock.
Sir Smiley's next question. In 1916, who is the first female to be elected to the U.S. Congress?
Oh God. I'm so upset about this that I don't remember her name, because the coolest part about her election is she was elected before she could vote. Women couldn't vote at the time when she was elected to Congress, but I'm totally blanking on her name.
Her name, Jeanette Rankins.
There it is.
Who is the first black senator in the United States of America?
Oh shit. This was another one. Oh, what's my brain remembering? I don't know the name. My brain says there was actually one back in the 19th century. I'm failing.
So,
I'm failing so hard.
Hiram Rhodes Revel.
Okay.
Revel.
All right.
I'd never heard the name myself, so I was kind of
And
like,
what year?
do I still have that one up? I don't know if I still have that one up. I'll have to
We're
go
gonna have
back
to
and look.
find this out.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
All right.
sorry.
Second to last. Oh no, I'm sorry. Last question. You need this one. You need
Oh.
this one.
God. All right. I
One
thought you
of
said the points didn't matter.
well, I mean, in the end, it doesn't really matter.
Yes, it does.
No, I mean you could try so hard and go so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. Did it? All right.
I do not accept this. Okay.
One of show business's most iconic entertainers, Josephine Baker, served what post for the Allied forces?
Oh shit, this is another one that I've actually read about. Oh. Served what post for the Allied forces? Oh man. I don't remember.
Look at the chat, because Kenjin's right.
Spot. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Hey, Kenjin and
Nice.
Bai Hu, you did it. All right.
I'm phoning a friend for this one.
MacGyver, it's not entirely true. I probably wouldn't have refused his belt again for that. I mean,
Oh my gosh.
oh, okay. So
Wait, what?
the Sir Smiley was clarifying a question, and then I was also reading MacGyver's statement about not taking your belt. 3 more questions, and we're done. By who? Morgan would like to know, what's the square root of a bowl of oatmeal?
A cow.
A cow. If you could meet anyone in history, who would it be, and why is it Freddie Mercury?
I mean, not a bad choice, but your question answers itself, so I don't actually have to respond.
That's sure. That's fine. And, all right. Last question. If it takes a chicken and a half, a day and a half to lay an egg and a half, how long would it take a grasshopper with a wooden leg to kick a seed out of a dill pickle?
Chimichanga.
Chimichanga. Sir Bai Hu, thank you so much for coming on today. If you could just bear with me for a moment so I could do some announcements, and then we'll say our goodbyes. Woo! That was a banger, Dragon Spine. Thank you for listening. Dragon Spine, anyone listening to this, actually, there is a new award committee survey. You should be taking that. That's a really good thing to be doing.
If you haven't taken one, they're so well put together, so well thought out. Like, please take them. The committee is doing such good work. Anyway,
Yep.
Sorry.
Absolutely. Additionally, for anyone that's listening to this, there is proposed rule changes to the COM, and your kingdom should have been posting those things. Take a look at those, because some of the stuff we covered tonight is in there. Yep. Maybe not exactly what was said, but some of it being said is in there. Dragon Spine, week 2 of the challenges from the Monarch, the Regent, and the Champion are up and posted. If you're interested in getting caught up on week 1, reach out to myself or Spooky or Stillhead, and we could probably get you the challenge that you need to fulfill. Let's see. Wyvern's Roost is having their Weapon Master and Qualls this Saturday. So if you have a chance to be in Sierra Vista, you should try to do that. On the 22nd of this month, so 2 weeks from, or a week from Saturday, 2 weeks from last Saturday, Burning Lands will be having their End Rain. There's going to be 2 nightings at that event. So if you have a want or desire to go to that, you should. I believe that's all my announcements. Is there anything else that I should say? Oh, yes, there is. Darius had mentioned a question about your podcast. You should plug that.
So which one? Okay.
Where's your
I've
heart?
got 2 of them. Yeah,
Okay,
where's your
okay.
heart? So that one is Mondays at we start at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. And that one's a really, really neat project. Just discussing things from as many angles as we can and trying to embody and model vulnerability and to do that differently. Began with a friend of mine who identifies himself as a native Black American. And then I brought on somebody else that I know locally from Albuquerque, and she's amazing too. It's just really, yeah, that one's really fun. Then there's a podcast that I do solo where I read a book with somebody and then we just have a discussion like this. And yes, they often take 2 or 3 hours and then I chop them up. But that one's called Killing the Great White Male. And it's actually about a lot of the stuff that we talked about tonight that I think is problematic within our organization. We have a lot of toxic behaviors that are, and my argument in that podcast is that they're toxic to, as somebody who's been called a white man all my life, they're toxic to me too. And to tie back to like that toxicity is where I ended up on the field that day at GOTC. Like, there are consequences to those of us that have privilege too, and we need to be talking about how we acknowledge that we have privilege in our society, but also it's important for us to be acknowledging how it hurts us too. So that's the premise of that podcast. So yeah, there's 2 of them because
Both
COVID. Why not do it?
sure. I mean, isn't that why we do anything that we do anymore? It's
Yeah.
COVID. Why not?
I wrote a book and started 2 podcasts while I was COVID. So there you go.
All right. Well, Sir Bai, thank you so much for coming on. I do appreciate you. You are fantastic. I
Thank
hope
you
to
for
see you
doing
soon.
this, and
Yeah.
thank you for the invitation.
Of
I really
course.
appreciate it. Kodiak.
Yeah, not a problem. And for the people at home, thank you for watching. This has been Kingdom of Kodiak, and I'm Kodiak.